on digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 3, the Brexit secretaries refuse to say what action will be taken if MPs aren't allowed to vote on Boris Johnson's new Brexit plan. The government wants the Commons to give a yes or no answer on the agreement this afternoon, but the Speaker, John Burrow, may refuse it because it's so soon after it effectively happened on Saturday. Stephen Barclay's been appearing at the Lords EU Select Committee.
The risk of a no deal remains. And the reason for that is the EU 27 may not agree an extension, and the House has not today agreed a deal. And so that risk remains pertinent, and it is important we prepare for it.
Meanwhile, judges in Scotland are waiting to see if Boris Johnson fully complies with the law that he must ask the EU for an extension if no agreement was reached by the 19th of this month. The PM sent 2 letters to Brussels, with one saying a delay would be a mistake. Police say they believe 2 teenagers stabbed to death at a house party in Milton Keynes were targeted. The attackers turned up wearing masks and armed with knives. 3 people have been taken to hospital after breathing in fumes in the cabin of an American Airlines flight from London to Philadelphia. Cleaning fluid was spilled on the Airbus, which was diverted to Dublin. Abortion will be legalised in Northern Ireland at midnight, despite a last-minute attempt to stop that happening. Some politicians at Stormont have tried to fast-track a piece of private members' legislation to block the reform, but it's been overruled. DUP leader Arlene Foster says she's disappointed.
We will have to take a look at all of our legal options. It is a very sad day, and I know some people will seek to celebrate today. And I would say to those people, think of those of us who are sad today and who believe that this is an affront to human dignity and to human life.
In tennis, Andy Murray has been included in Great Britain's squad for next month's Davis Cup. Yesterday, he won his first singles title for 2 years after claiming the European Open. That's the latest. I'm Will Rowe.
Love Sport Radio, on digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
Good afternoon, you're listening to the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. You're with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts and Love Sport's very own Martin Allen, former Brentford manager and West Ham midfielder. Your top stories this afternoon. A study has found that ex-footballers are more than 3 times more likely to die of dementia than people of the same age in the general population. Andy Murray has been selected for Great Britain's Davis Cup team for the first time since 2016, the day after he won his first singles title following career-saving hip surgery. And England have a fully fit squad to choose from for their World Cup semi-final against New Zealand next Saturday. It's the big one, and I've got the big man opposite me. Martin Allen is in the studio. Martin, lovely to see you. Starting the show with some really shocking news, which is that ex-footballers, particularly those who headed those old heavy leather balls, are 3 times more likely to die of dementia and are at increased risk of motor neuron disease and Alzheimer's. This is really shocking stuff.
Yeah, it's shocking, Johnny. My dad was playing in those years that you're talking about, and they often used to talk about, when I was a little boy, the heavy leather footballs, especially with the wet ones in the winter, and also the string that used to tie up the ball. If you got it, edited on that string, the pain it used to cause them. No, it's shocking. And I was just reading, Johnny, from Dawn Astle, daughter of Jeff Astle, the former West Brom centre forward, and she's put a tweet out regarding these results, and it states that for every 500 people who had died of dementia, nearly 400 of them were professional footballers. I mean, what a shocking statistic that is.
Absolutely staggering. The findings that have come out today, the figures that we're talking about, come from medical records from 7,676 men who played professional football in Scotland between 1900 and 1976. So important to note we are dealing exclusively with those old leather footballs. I never had an experience of kicking one, Martin. I don't know if you did, but I always heard that, particularly in the rain, because leather is such a porous material, they take it all on, and it's almost like heading a medicine ball.
Yeah. I remember it from when I was really young, Johnny. Obviously there was the old Mitre multiplex balls that we used to play with as kids, size 4, where we started out, and it wasn't anything like that. But at times, I have kicked and I have seen heavy, and when, like you say, when it rained and it was soaking wet, God knows how they managed to do it.
Is it worth it? This was a conversation we had on Posh Boys on Drive with on Friday after the sad news of yet another boxer's death. We were asking, listen, of course you're going to make all the provisions you can to make every sport as safe as possible, but just as with boxing, is it worth risking people's lives for that sport? Is it worth risking, for example, a 5-fold increase in Alzheimer's disease, a 4-fold increase in motor neuron disease, and a 2-fold increase in Parkinson's disease just to be a good header of a football?
Yeah, but Johnny, you've got to remember this tests and these results were between 1900 and 1976 with a football that's not used now. The footballs now are nothing like this. But I do wonder, I must say, even though the footballs have changed and improved over the years, if the amount of times that we've headed a ball, like I've been heading a ball since I was 7 years old, what effect? This study, by the way, has only been done up to 1976. Since 1976, with the different types of footballs, what would be the test results then? And of course, I would fit into that category.
Yeah, quite concerning, because we, of course, don't have figures for that yet. Of course, we first started talking about this properly back in 2002 when there was an inquest into the very sad death of Jeff Assel. And that inquest ruled that he had died from an industrial disease. Putting it in context, if you were told that people working in a certain industry were 5 times more likely to, for example, contract cancer because they'd been dealing with asbestos on a daily basis, the entire nation would be up in arms. But we seem to think of heading a football as just kind of a necessary side effect of the sport.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but thankfully it's changed now. They ain't got asbestos now being put into buildings, have they? And
No.
They ain't got those horrible footballs that they used to play with in the old days at at Reading's Elm Park when I was a real little boy. I used to see those games played with those footballs. Horrendous.
But equally, when you say we don't have the stats for these modern footballs, you're right to point out they are significantly lighter, significantly smoother as well, and they don't get much heavier in the rain. But it could follow that if heading those really heavy ones gives you a 5 times more likely chance of contracting Alzheimer's, if you're a centre-half who heads 100 balls a day in training and you're getting your head on real high-velocity crosses, there could still be a risk for people playing in the modern era, couldn't there?
Well, to be honest, Johnny, it's an absolute shock for me to personally see this. You know, when you're talking about the figures up to 1976 with those other types of footballs, and then the introduction of newer footballs, more lightweight, smoother, good, whatever, lighter, smoother footballs, not as heavy, not weighing as much. So for somebody like myself, Johnny, I can't deny it's an absolute shock for me to see this, and of course it's a concern. Am I going to rush to my doctor tomorrow and say, oh my God, can you check me over? No, I'm not. And do I regret heading a ball since I was 7 years old, probably how many times per week, 3 games a week that I used to play, all the way through to when I was 34? Do I regret any of that? And am I worried about, well, of course it's going to be a concern for me. But no, it's certainly been a shock since I've read this over the last couple of hours. This report's come in.
Does it not worry you?
Oh, of course it worries me. Yeah, of course it is. What does dementia do, Johnny?
So dementia is, I think, effectively...
You forget people's names, don't you? And all
synonymous with Alzheimer's.
Yeah, very similar. What I've said to you sometimes, Johnny, great show, Pete. And there are times, I cannot deny, Johnny, there are times when I forget things, and I don't know if it's just generally for people of my age, when you get to 45 like I am, with people do start to forget things, and there's moments on your show where I'm trying to think of a footballer's name or a manager's name, and you think to yourself, oh, God, what is it? What is it? What is it? Can't remember his blinking name. You donut, Martin, you donut. And maybe it's because I've edited too many footballs.
Well, one man whose name you certainly can remember is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We're going to have much more on this finding of heading footballers and how it could be related to dementia throughout the show. But I want to talk about the big game of the weekend, yesterday's clash between United and Liverpool. I was presenting the score on Love Sport on Saturday afternoon with Jimmy Carter, and I repeatedly said Liverpool are going to batter them. 3-0, 4-0, proven spectacularly wrong. How much of that credit has to go to the manager?
I think he deserves a lot of credit, to be fair. The lineup, when we first saw it come through on the TV, looked like they were going to be playing with a 5-3-2. Wow. And when they started, even in the first 5 minutes, both their wing-backs with Young playing on the left and Wan-Bissaka playing on the right, pressed high up the pitch, and it was basically to play with three at the back. And then the two forwards with Rashford up on the left-hand side and James playing on the right-hand side, but not wide, but just on the inside. And behind them, in a deep number 10 role, was Pereira, who was going through the middle. I mean, what a performance he put in. Who expected, and even the pundits, you know, all the big boys, the big pundit boys, never predicted that the wing-backs would play as high as that. The credit has got to go to the manager. And they took the game to Manchester United. They went on the front foot against Manchester United. They competed against them. And everybody said that Liverpool didn't play very well. Well, I don't buy that. I say it was the good performance of Manchester United that pushed them back, rushed them into giving the ball away so often. And yes, they were nervy, but they were tentative. And Manchester United, I thought, was superb.
They were indeed. Let's hear from United boss Ole Gunnar Solskjaer on what he thinks his team did particularly well yesterday.
We're better when we attack quickly. No dilly-dallying on the ball. Play the ball forward. It doesn't have to be a counter-attack, but that you be more direct and you take more risks. Be braver. Doesn't matter if you lose the ball up there, because you can win it back.
Yeah, that dilly-dallying on the ball that he's mentioned there, Johnny, who do you think that's aimed at?
Paul Pogba?
Correct. Did you see him, Johnny, before the game with that hoodie on, with all that, my wife called it graffiti design, which is, it was white.
Sorry, graffiti.
Yeah, it was a white hoodie. This is a Manchester United player turned up for the home game with a white hoodie on with all different colours of graffiti with words yellow, red, orange, green on his hoodie.
What's the problem?
Going to watch the game. Well, he shouldn't be doing that.
Why not?
You've got club. Why not? Because the players have to turn up in Manchester United tracksuits or Manchester United suits to play, and they would have all been told that they had to wear that sort of stuff. But he smokes in with a hood on. Oh my God, when I saw that before the game, hearing his comments there, that is aimed at one person, which is why Mourinho didn't want him in his team, because he had too many touches, he slowed it down too much, and he stopped any pace and penetration from his dilly-dallying and messing about on the ball.
Well, VAR, as ever, grabbed the headlines this weekend. Were United a bit lucky that their goal stood? There were suggestions that there was a foul in the build-up from Victor Lindelof.
Yeah, there was, John. It could have been a foul, but it wasn't given. It wasn't given. So, get on with it. And don't moan. Don't complain. Deal with it. They were poor defending the goal anyway. What about complaining and moaning about your own players' performance in not defending the goal properly when they had plenty of opportunities to stop that goal after the foul? Was it a foul? probably.
But hang on, if it was a goal, if you think it probably was a foul, then surely they have a right to feel aggrieved, because if VAR is reviewing some things, like it did, for example, for the Sadio Mane disallowed goal.
What, the handball?
A handball.
He nearly caught it, didn't he?
But that's a handball in the same way that, for me, this was a foul. Surely we should be reviewing everything.
But the referee didn't deem it a foul. He didn't think it was worthy of a foul, so get on with it. The other one, he nearly caught it.
More on VAR throughout the show. Former Premier League referee Keith Hackett didn't hold back in his views when he joined Love Sport Breakfast this morning. We'll hear what he had to say just after 3:30. And we're speaking to former United midfielder Samuel McElroy after 4. Coming up next, we're talking Andy Murray.
Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Can you save money on your energy bills? Tony did, with help from a spokesmansaid.com. Getting people real savings.
I'm Tony from Northampton. My bills for gas and electricity had gone straight through the roof. I chose a Spokesman Said, and they saved me £2,800. It was so easy, I used them for my house and contents insurance too.
For help saving money on your energy bills, go to a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
I believe in reincarnation. I've left everything in my will to me.
This is Love Sport.
Well, the big tennis news of the week is that Andy Murray will represent Great Britain for the first time since 2016 after being named in the squad for next month's inaugural Davis Cup finals. This is a quite extraordinary achievement, Martin, because he relatively recently had serious surgery, hip resurfacing surgery. Many people would say that to get back on the court at all in that context is impressive. To get back and win at any level is extraordinary. To get back and win an ATP title against Stan Wawrinka and then get in the Davis Cup team is out of this world.
Well, he has got guts, hasn't he? There's no doubt he has got guts. He's got courage. He's a tremendous example to all the young people coming through. Even with massive setbacks, he's managed to climb his way to the top and to come back again and win this tournament. Absolutely amazing. Do you think, Johnny, it's feasible with the others getting a little bit older that he could come back and do something at Wimbledon?
Oh, I mean, you'd love to see it. I think it's still pretty unlikely because he's getting older with them. He's 32 as well. So he's in that bracket, not, of course, as old as Federer, but in the bracket with Nadal and Djokovic.
Yeah.
I think he will always be someone who can trouble any tennis player. He'll always be someone who can give anyone a game, not just because of his ability, but because, as you say, he's got that fight and that total refusal to give up. I think another Wimbledon title, for me, is probably beyond him. But I'm just staggered he's doing it at all. It's obviously a different kind of injury, but I've broken a hip in the past.
Have you?
Yeah, and if you break,
how'd you do that?
I'm not going to tell you live on the radio. It was a very silly piece of behaviour on my part. Guy Watts knows the story. But your hip, you think of it. Well, rather, you don't think of it at all. When your hips are working, and it doesn't cross your mind your hip could break. if you have a problem with your hip...
That's the same with all your body, isn't it?
No, but the hip is... You hear about people breaking legs and arms and having a problem with that. How many professional sportsmen currently operating can you name me who've had a big problem with a hip?
No one.
And that's the thing. And everything hurts because it's connected to your side. It's connected to the whole leg. It's so hard to use it for weight bearing, which is a huge part of a tennis player's game when you're leaning back and whipping your whole body forward. So I am staggered, really, that he's been able to do this.
Well, it's he must be absolutely chuffed to bits for that. Were there any of the other big players in that tournament, Johnny?
Yeah, I mean, he beat Wawrinka in the final, who's...
he's good, isn't he?
3 Grand Slams of his own, so a serious player to defeat. And he is now, Andy, in effect, back at the pinnacle of British tennis. Dan Evans, of course, has become Great British #1 because Kyle Edmund has lost in his last 7 tour appearances. But Evans has said very publicly, listen, as far as I'm concerned, Andy's back. Andy is #1. Edmund, of course, out in the cold because Murray's back in the Davis Cup squad. Edmund left out after those defeats.
Edmund's a good name, isn't it?
Kyle Edmund. Good name.
I thought it was Edmund Blackadder.
A different Edmund. A fall from grace from him in the same way that Murray is scrapping back up to the top. And now to be involved in the competition with his brother again. It'll be a proud moment for Judy, no doubt.
Very much so. She must be chuffed to bits as well.
I think she must. You always wonder. We're told that parents don't have favourite children. That's what my parents tell me and my brother. They go, no, we don't have a favourite. We couldn't pick. If we had a kind of Sophie's Choice style scenario, we would not know what to do. You just wonder whether Judy Murray actually does know what she'd do.
Well, Johnny, can you imagine all those years ago, Judy's driving, the 2 boys gone to a tennis tournament, Andy's got the trophy sitting on the front seat, and his brother, he sat on the back seat with nothing. Can you imagine all those years, how torturous that must have been for his younger brother?
It must have been, but his younger brother now...
Trophy. You sit in the back with nothing. Can you imagine it? Must have been terrible for that poor boy.
I can, and less glamorous to be a doubles player than a singles player. But Jamie is a pretty successful man in his own right, so I imagine he can handle it, Guy.
Yeah, I imagine so, Johnny. He has got Grand Slam titles, of course, does Jamie Murray. And he and Neil Skupski have been named in the Davis Cup team too. They'll be the doubles pairing. Important, I think, to emphasise that Andy is being named very much as a singles player. I just can't get over how incredible this comeback has been. You know, I know that he's not won really major titles as of yet, but if you think 9 months ago, we literally didn't know if we'd see Andy Murray playing tennis at a professional level ever again. Not only has he managed to do that, remember, no singles players ever had this surgery and come back, but he's already winning tournaments, not just winning tournaments, coming from a set and a breakdown in the final to beat three-time Grand Slam winner Stan Wawrinka, a guy who has really probably been playing at a better level than him since his injury problems a few years ago. So, yeah, I think an incredible story, and who's to say that there isn't another incredible chapter even before the end of this year at the Davis Cup. It's a revamped format. We're in a group with Kazakhstan and the Netherlands. It's going to be in Madrid, 6 groups of 3, 18 countries involved. It's going to be an exciting tournament, and Andy Murray's going to be playing there for Great Britain. You wouldn't want to write us off.
No, he's
special.
He's got courage, isn't he?
He's special. We haven't produced many sportsmen like him.
You wouldn't want to write us off in the rugby either, and Eddie Jones is refusing to do that. He's come out and said that New Zealand are beatable. Do we agree with him?
They are. They've got to be. And you look at their semi-final record in World Cups, and I think it proves that. They've been arguably the best team at probably every World Cup there's ever been, going back to 1987. There have been maybe 2 occasions where on paper they weren't considered the favourites or the strongest team. One of those was probably back in 2003 when, of course, England won. But there have been very few times when New Zealand haven't been the strongest team on paper, and yet they haven't won it nearly as often as they should have. In fact, their record in World Cup semi-finals, played 7, won 4, lost 3. And I think that tells a story of how tense and difficult to win semi-finals are. It's not just about having the best team on paper. It is, the old cliche, it's about turning up on the day and beating the team in front of you. And it doesn't matter what's gone before. France, for example, have a really good record in World Cup knockout games, and they have so rarely come into a tournament being fancied or in good form, but they're able to get it done on the day to pull out big performances. They so nearly did it yesterday to the Grand Slam winners Wales, but if it hadn't been for that moment of madness, we'll talk about this later, from Sebastian Vermeer at the second row, elbowed Aaron Wainwright in a horrible, horrible moment. But
what was he doing?
He just lost the plot, Johnny. Just completely lost the plot, because he had him in a headlock. and then let the guy go, and clearly was still annoyed with him. And I mean, that was the most vicious elbow I've seen anyone do on a sporting pitch or anywhere.
It was cowardly as well, wasn't it? For me? It was cowardly. In the position that it was in, there was no way the other bloke could hit him back, and he just slammed him straight in the jaw.
Martin, is that what you're objecting to? If he'd hit him in a fair way where the other guy could have swung back, it would be okay.
But you don't do it, do you?
No.
When someone's down on the floor, you don't boot them or punch them when they're down on the ground. If you're going to do it, you've got to stand in front of them and say, well, come on, then let's have one. But he did it in a position where it was like, you can't get me back.
He wasn't even looking at him.
I would call it cowardly what the bloke done, and costly, because they are out, which is great news. The French are out. Isn't it great they're out?
Yeah, but the Welsh are still in.
But when I was a little boy, Johnny, I went over to France with my mum and dad, and my mum tried to explain to me how to order like a toasted cheese sandwich. She knew a little bit of French, less than you two clever boys, and I did it, not very well, but the waitress looked at me like I was a Dumbo.
No, I'm with you on this, actually.
And I thought, what? You're rude. And my mum said to her, because the woman spoke English as well, he's only trying to speak French, and the woman just shrugged her shoulders and walked off. And since that day, I don't like French.
And you've got a real problem with toasted sandwiches as well.
No, I like toasted cheesy.
Were you trying to order a croque monsieur?
Yeah, that's it.
Is that the one?
Je voudrais un.
Yes, exactly. À la maison, in my garden, in my house. Jardin.
Jardin is garden.
Yeah, with my house. I was in someone's house in their garden when I ordered the croque monsieur. But I got it all wrong.
I'm not surprised you didn't get what you wanted after that.
But I am actually. I know we've
but
gone
they've
down
got
an
an attitude.
I actually agree with this. If you're in France, and I've had it where my French is not, I suspect, any better than Martin's, and you do the kind of je voudrais un, and you try, and you're doing it because you're trying to be polite, and they do sneer at you in a way that if you go to Berlin and absolutely butcher the German language, they're delighted that you've even tried.
Yeah, the French are a little bit different, aren't they? But I don't like the Welsh much either. The Welsh like beating us more than France like beating us, I think.
Everyone likes beating us
they
because
do.
we're the best.
So it's degrees of how much they like beating us. And the Welsh love it so much, I just think it's a bit pathetic and a bit embarrassing. And that makes me hate them more. I know I'm nibbling, and I know that I shouldn't rise to it, but I'd have quite liked to see the French knock out the Welsh, especially because it would have been such an upset.
But on that Welsh showing, should England meet Wales in the final, we'll
win.
have every confidence.
We should. Look, the point is that this is the World Cup final, England versus New Zealand, and everything but name. I think it's fair to say. Yeah, I know you've got to go out and win a final, and that'll be tough. It'll be a gritty game. It won't be high scoring or free flowing. I'd be really surprised whoever England or New Zealand play. It's not going to be a one-sided affair, but I would expect them to come out on top. But that said, we've got to get past New Zealand. And what have you made, Martin, of what Eddie Jones has been saying since the quarter-final win?
Yeah, it's a good question, Guy, but I've got to rewind you back to the French.
What now?
I'm going to have to rewind you.
Have you ever signed a French player, ever?
Yes, Guy Lopez. France.
How do you do for
Francais. He done good.
Loved a sandwich.
Take you back a little bit. When I done what they used to call GCSEs, I done French, and I studied French for 3 years. But I never really kind of took any interest in it because I just wanted to be a footballer. So when the teacher used to give you all the vocabulary and how to do the male and female part of how the words get said and all that sort of stuff, for me it was just going over my head. I used to look out on the sports field and think I just want to play football. So when it came to the exam, after 3 years of studying, I got 4%.
Surely not.
I swear. And at the beginning, they had a multiple choice where you had to, one of them was garden, which was jardin. Another one was car, which was voiture. So that gave me my 4%. So when the results came, my mum went absolutely furious, and she demanded from the teacher to see the exam result and who had tested it and what was right and what was wrong. And the French teacher said, "You're lucky he got 4%. Lucky I was a footballer, eh, Johnny?
Luck is crucial. Absolutely crucial. Multiple choice. Do you not like the multiple choice bit? You can just rule out what's clearly wrong.
I didn't know what was clearly wrong, Johnny. I'm not clever like you. I didn't go to Cambridge.
Yes, you are.
Coming back to that story that Guy's talking about with New Zealand, what I particularly like and what sprung out and jumped at me today was Eddie Jones's comments about New Zealand. I think he's using psychology and he's trying to get into their mind. The words he used were, "We are playing the greatest team that has ever been in sport." If you look at their record, no other team has that over such a sustained period of time. Now, for the New Zealand players who are all the All Blacks who are going to read that, they are going to be kind of walking around, hopefully, thinking they are the best ever. The best ever. And that tenacity, I'm not saying it's totally going to happen, of course I'm not, but hopefully it'll kind of being recognised as the greatest. Probably like Liverpool yesterday, totally expected to win that game, dominate Manchester United, win the game. Sometimes that pressure can be a burden, and I think he's played a very well thought out statement to praise New Zealand at the start of the week, and I reckon he's going to be going down that road right through to Saturday morning when we go out and beat them.
Well, we can only hope. It's being reported in the last few minutes, this is as yet unconfirmed, but reported by Paul Williams of the Rugby World magazine, that Vermeersch has retired from Test rugby, which would be quite a lively response to a bad mistake. 28 years old. Should someone's international career end over something like that?
Is that the elbow?
Yeah.
Well, you could see how he's probably done it. He's probably been... I can't imagine, Johnny, in the dressing room that his teammates would have been very happy with him, for sure. They would not have been happy. As soon as that door shut and the cameras were out of that dressing room, there'd have been people wanting to pin him up against the wall and say, you idiot, let's call it that. That's been such a costly move. And now I think Johnny is doing the right thing to get himself out the firing line, and... that's a massive error, isn't it?
Well,
that's a massive error.
And particularly in this era of there being cameras all over the stadium, TMS, VAR, whichever the sporting equivalent is, you are not getting away with it. He was caught on camera. Lots of footballing...
And he's quit, has he?
Well, that is the initial report. Lots of incidents caught on camera, of course, across the Premier League this weekend by VAR. But the big question is whether it's being applied correctly. Coming up, we'll be hearing from former Premier League referee Keith Hackett.
This is Love Sport.
I'm Leslie from North Essex. I couldn't believe that after 5 minutes I'd saved over £900 on my energy bills. When my car insurance was then due for renewal, I went back to a spokesman said and reduced my premium by over £500. I thought that my home insurance was expensive. When I shopped around on a spokesman said, I saved a staggering £1,100. I've saved £2,500. I cannot believe it was that easy.
A spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you'd do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics.
All better. Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
All right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
Love Sport.
We're going to be talking VAR in just a moment's time, but when we're still on the rugby front, we should touch on one person who got caught by a camera of the more conventional kind. Just a still photo, but a still photo can be enough to do serious damage to a career. And I suspect that will be the case in this instance with Rugby World Cup referee Jacko Piper. He was, of course, in charge of that game between the Welsh and the French, in which the French player was dismissed for throwing an elbow. After the game, Piper has been photographed with a group of very, very cheery Welsh fans who are all going, "Oi!" and miming an aggressive elbow to the jaw of the man next to them.
Right.
Piper is not only in that photo, one of the Welsh fans has clearly gone, "Oh, go on, mate, mime the elbow yourself, it'll be funny." And he's done it.
You're kidding me.
I genuinely think it's hilarious, but I also think it's fabulously misguided because the powers that be will see that image, see absolutely rightly that he is on the wind-up and making light of a massively serious and controversial flashpoint in this World Cup, and they're going to go, "Jacko, I'm sorry, good refereeing performance, mate, but that'll be it."
Is your ticket home, kid?
Yeah, surely.
How would he do that? Why would he do that, Johnny?
Well, he's having a bit of fun, isn't he? He's got caught up in the jovial feeling. You've got 12 blokes, and I imagine lots of people involved in the world of rugby are quite macho, and you get 12 other macho men coming over, because he's the hero, right? The referee who sends off the French guy, even though he has no choice, which then wins Wales the game. You are the hero for showing that red card. They're going to go, "Hey, Jacko, you're our hero. He did the elbow."
Yeah, but that's fine. Go and give him a hug. But what the heck?
Should you even be hugging them?
What on earth is he doing, putting himself into that position?
I just don't know.
I bet he's on his way home now, isn't he? Pack your bags,
it's being
kiddo, see you later.
investigated. You'd have thought, I mean, how much investigation is there to do? It seems to be all there in black and white, or rather red and white.
Just when he
Game
goes
over.
back to his hotel, Johnny, he'll take 2 or 3 steps into reception. And you could just imagine a bloke in a suit with a one-way ticket back to where he's coming from and say, "You've got 10 minutes to pack your bags. There's a taxi. You're going, mate."
And Mr. Piper, clear your dress out.
What's his name, Mr. Piper?
Piper.
Pied.
Right. Yeah, leading the way all the way out of the World Cup. In terms of VAR in the Premier League this weekend, firstly, spare a thought for Raul Jimenez, who would have had a hat-trick if VAR didn't exist. He had not 1 but 2 goals disallowed, both rightly, I should add. But there were more controversial instances than just those involving Wolves. A couple came in that Tottenham game. Pochettino definitely under pressure now. Perhaps lucky that Dele Alli's goal stood.
Yeah, remind us about that. Tell us about that, Johnny.
Well, the ball bounces up towards Ali, who jumps at it, and it strikes him. The ruling was on the shoulder. It looked to me like it was more upper arm, which is technically not a handball, as I understand it, if it's that kind of shoulder, real upper arm area, tricep kind of point.
That's your arm, isn't it? What you're pointing to?
I think in the rules, Guy would probably
your
be
leg,
able to
is
correct
it?
me here. No, but I think it's around that shoulder area. Balotelli, of course, famously scored with the shoulder against Norwich. It hits Ali on the upper portion, shall we say, of the outside of his arm, bounces forward. He's able to then volley home into an empty net. It was examined on VAR. It was very, very tense, and it ended up being given. If you were the ref, how would you have called it?
Tough one to call that, Johnny. Even sitting here now watching your actions, and you're pointing to the upper part of your arm as it goes up to that corner of the shoulder. Is that handball? Arm ball? Shoulder ball? Where is it? How tough is that for the referee to get that right?
Very, very tough.
And if it goes off to the VAR and they've got the chance to, overview it and see if that's right, then I'm sure they've come to the right decision.
One that for me wasn't the right decision was a challenge on Deulofeu at the other end, where he broke into the Tottenham box, was just about to hit the byline. The Spurs defender slides in early, doesn't catch Deulofeu at first, and just as the Spaniard drifts in a little further towards the near post, he ends up getting caught and going down. For me, it's clever play from the attacker. There's an element of buying it, but it is a foul, and it has to be a penalty. And I can't understand, if we're examining everything, if we're giving the referee another look, how a challenge which trips the player up and does not touch the football cannot result in a foul being given. It doesn't make sense.
No, I think it's a difficult one for the referee, being behind it, looking down the pitch towards it at the pace that it was going. But I think the VAR this time got it wrong. I thought it was a definite penalty, and a clear and obvious penalty.
And that could have massive repercussions come the end of the season. Firstly, for Watford, who are going to be well and truly down in that relegation dogfight, and it would have been a huge 3 points for them, by the way. But also for Tottenham, now 7th in the league. They will still have pretensions of European qualification. I have to say, Martin, I was fully confident they were going to bounce back against Watford. I thought this would be a comfortable 2-0 win, set them on the right path. You're shaking your head. Where did it all go wrong?
What, for Spurs?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big question, that one, Johnny. I think it's been an ongoing thing. Going back to comments, that it was clear the manager wasn't 100% happy. It was clear that he thought some of those players had done a great job for Tottenham, but he thought that they needed to move some on and bring some fresh faces into the squad. And I've looked at some of the goals they've conceded, and the lack of pace, the lack of speed for their defenders is quite astonishing. They never really replaced Kieran Trippier in the summer, which is a massive weakness. The goalkeeper, I'm not sure if he's actually past his best. Lloris, I know he's not playing right at the moment, but it just seems like a bit of an unhappy camp. Eriksen wasn't involved at all at the weekend, from what I can gather. So no, there's it just seems as though it's not quite right behind the scenes, and he's got issues with some other players. Vertonghen at the start of the season wasn't even in the squad, if you remember. There was pictures of him in a T-shirt and his sunglasses watching an home game from the stand. So no, it just doesn't seem quite as though it's connected so well as he had it last season.
Yeah, it's a very, very tricky scenario for everyone at the club at the moment. I think the most troubling thing is what is clearly wrong with it. There isn't an area where you go, if you change something there, Spurs will get back to their best. I'm finding it very, very hard to diagnose the problem.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, what is the thing that is easily correctable in that Spurs team? What is the thing causing this slump?
Well, there's not just one thing, Johnny. There's a whole series of things. Like I said, though, that back four that played last week and the goalkeeper, they were playing in Tottenham's first team 5 years ago. It's the same group, and that doesn't always work. Some of those players were told that they could leave. Danny Rose looked like he was going to Watford. Vertonghen looked like he was going. The goalkeeper said he wants to go and play in America. Wanyama looked like he was on his way to Club Brugge. So there's several players. Who's the centre back that had a £25 million buyout clause?
Alderweireld.
Yeah, we've got 1 year to go on his contract. Johnny, he has not got the pace to play top level Premier League. There ain't no way he's got the speed to do that. And at times he gets left 5 yards behind at speed through good players. So it's not one thing you have to change, and sometimes you can't change it overnight. You have to wait. And for the Tottenham fans and the Tottenham manager, they'll have to wait till they can change these players, move them on, and get fresh, younger faces. And Pochettino said that in the summer that he needs to change it. So he's not coming up to any surprises here.
You just wonder whether Pochettino needs to change the system. I know he's a manager with strong kind of philosophical principles, if you like, but he's playing with a system at the moment which is absolutely dependent on flying creative wing-backs to basically be your creative outlet. It was certainly the point when he had Kieran Trippier and Danny Rose at his best. And that was what they were trying for repeatedly against Watford. Release those fullbacks in a kind of Liverpool-esque way. He's trying to do that, as you said, with Serge Aurier and a Danny Rose who doesn't look like the Danny Rose of years gone by in any way, shape or form. Surely a short-term fix is to stop deliberately bringing into play your real weak points in the team.
Oh, I'm not sure they're going to change the style of play. It was only 3 months ago they was playing in the Champions League final. It was only 4 months ago they beat Man City over 2 legs in the semi-final. So I wouldn't go that drastic. Say all of a sudden one morning at the training ground, lads, get yourself in here, get in front of the flip chart, and say, right, hold on a minute, you fullbacks have got to stay where you're going, and we're going to play a completely different style. at this stage of the season, which would be complete and utter madness. It don't matter what system you've got. If your centre-halves are lacking pace and players have been told that they can go and they're surplus to requirements and you've still got to use them and still got to put them out there, that is going to be difficult. And results are showing that at the moment. There seems to be issues behind the scenes that perhaps we're not 100% aware of, that also have to be taken into account. It looks like that squad, as the manager said, needs freshening up, and it needs time to do it. Changing the system right now, I don't think that's a sensible way to go forward.
Well, we'll have more on Tottenham and, of course, VAR throughout the show. Coming up, we're talking to James Hallwell, former Wallabies captain.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Are you paying way too much for your energy bills? A spokesman said could help you save big money. With electricity costs continuing to rise, you could save hundreds of pounds by shopping around. Just go to aspokesmansaid.com and look for the very best value energy deals on the market. Don't waste your hard-earned cash. You could be on a much cheaper deal. Go to aspokesmansaid.com.
Fighting for you, saving you money.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
I am a god in Scotland. They've never seen anyone live to 70.
This is Love Sport.
If there's anything better than a spectacular summer of international sport where we've seen England win a World Cup, tie an Ashes series just about, and potentially now go and win another World Cup, it's sharing it with someone who loves sport and loves England as much as Martin Allen does. And Martin, beyond just loving watching England win, you love watching England beat certain teams, particularly the Australians.
Yeah, I do, Johnny. I like Australian people, but when it comes to sport and competing against them, the cricket and the Ashes, Dennis Lillee, Jeff Thompson, Merv Hughes, it has scarred me, Johnny. It's a psychological scar because they're so determined, so fierce, so disrespect for the opposition, and when we beat them at cricket, Johnny, and when we beat them the other day, I loved every time we got a point, whether it be a kick or a try, when we beat them on Saturday morning, I was punching the sky going, get in there! Get in there!
Martin,
What?
Don't rub it in. We're joined on the line by James Hallwell, former Wallabies captain. Good afternoon, James. Thanks for joining us. In light of what Martin is saying about the traditional brilliance of Australian sides in every sport, how disappointed were you on Saturday?
Oh, look, I think, it was a game that we didn't deserve to win. The better team won on the day, and I don't think there's any arguments about that. So, look, sometimes disappointment with that sort of thing is not really there when you were clearly outplayed. I mean, it was a game where, we probably would have expected, the Aussies to get the job done, and I know that they would have expected, but they, for whatever reason, due to one is element is England's good play, and another element is we probably played a game that didn't really suit to winning that game and give us the best possibility. So look, I know it's frustrating being Aussie, particularly living here in the UK. It doesn't make it any easier, but look, I think the guys that will be most frustrated will be probably the guys that played on Saturday morning UK time and couldn't get the job done.
James, when you talk about Australia perhaps not setting up in the right way, how much blame goes to the manager for that? And with that in mind, was it the right decision for Cheika to resign after the game?
Oh, look, I think with the strategy, it's not something that a style of play that you sort of develop. I don't think it's sort of just decided then and then for that week. It's something that they've obviously been developing for a long time, and it has worked. And there's a certain way you want to play, and I think that's important. But it's also important to be able to adapt. And that was probably the thing that struck a lot of people on Saturday, is that we didn't probably adapt to the way we were playing even during the game. And I think the good teams that you see, the great teams, can adapt the way they play. And I think that's probably been the thing that Australia probably didn't do on Saturday to get through England. With Cheika resigning, look, I think his contract is up at the end of the year anyway. So he came out earlier in the year and said if he doesn't win the World Cup, he's not going to seek reappointment. And as he said, he's a man of his word. So I don't look at it any more than that. It's an opportunity now for Australian rugby to rebuild. Do a comprehensive review of what's been happening, how it's been going from external parties, and then make an assessment of where they can go and appoint a new coach to build for the next 4 years to the World Cup in France in 2023.
James, the one thing I think you can guarantee with your sportsmen is that they will get back together and get a decent team out there to compete far better than what that lot have just done.
I think it's in the Australian culture. When your back's against the wall, it's something we pride ourselves on. We don't take a backward step. We keep moving forward, and I think that whatever group is assigned with taking the Wallabies forward, that's what they'll do. And there's a lot of players moving on, as with every team in a World Cup cycle. There's the inevitable change that happens every 4 years, and the Wallabies will be no different. But come what will be June, July next year, when the first Wallaby test of 2020 is played, there'll be no doubt there'll be a team put together that'll be willing to fight and claw and scrap for victory, and that's all I guess the Australian people will want to see, and then we'll see where we go depending on who's coaching and from there.
James, how good was your former Quins teammate Carl Sinclair on the day? I thought he was superb.
Yeah, he's very good. Look, he's he's the sort of guy that's slowly revolutionising the tight head prop position in Test rugby. He's got not only is his set piece work improving and his scrummaging improving, which is obviously what his core job is. His ability to play with ball in hand and carry the ball and be destructive is changing games, and that's what he's been there to do. And I think he's been excellent for England. It's not a surprise. I think I've seen it. We've seen him do this previously for England. There were games in the Six Nations where he single-handedly took teams apart, and if he can continue that and make sure he stays focused on the job at hand, he can the sky's the limit for him.
And James, was it a surprise to the Australian public for the young 19-year-old to be making his debut in such a big game as a World Cup semi-final?
Yeah, look, I mean, it was. Some people were surprised, but for a lot of people, I don't think it was. I think I think arguably on Saturday he was probably one of our best players. I think there's been a lot of talk about Jordan for a long time. He grew up in Brisbane, where I'm from, and I heard a few years ago about this kid that was coming through the schoolboy system, had a lot of big raps on him, and at the moment he's living up to the hype. He's had a few stuttered starts with injury, and I think he would have been involved more this year at a test level. If it hadn't been for injury, he hurt his foot and had a operation right at the beginning of the year, so he missed out a lot. And So look, I think he's the real deal. And in terms of throwing it in, I think he vindicated Czech's choice in picking him for that game because I thought he was very, very good.
Yeah, he was good.
James, just finally, who's going to win the World Cup?
Whoever wins out of England and New Zealand at the moment, it looks like, based on the games from the weekend. I think it's tough to pick past New Zealand. I think any time they've been pushed this tournament, they've just gone to another gear, and I still think they've got a couple of gears to go. So look, I think you're a brave man to tip against them, but there's no reason why England can't beat them on the weekend. They continue to perform that they played against Australia and the way that they're building. There is no reason why England can't beat them. And I think from the other side, I think South Africa will beat Wales on the weekend, and so I think it'll be South Africa playing, that in the final against, obviously England or New Zealand, and I think New Zealand, if you're a betting man, probably the short odds, but England aren't too far behind them because they've been playing some very good rugby.
We can do the business. James, great to speak to you. Thank you for your time. James Hallwill there, the former Wallabies captain. Great to talk to him. And some rather frustrating breaking news into the studio. I feel like we've got breaking news of this nature virtually every day at the moment. Serbia have been ordered to play their Euro 2020 qualifier versus Luxembourg behind closed doors following racist behaviour by Serbia supporters.
And it about time, Johnny.
Yeah, absolutely it is, and it's good to see people punished for these incidents, which is why we're hearing about them. But it feels like, particularly in the last fortnight, particularly in the last 6 months even, these stories are just constantly cropping up.
Yeah, and there's more today that a Manchester United fan was ejected from Old Trafford yesterday for a racist comment. It seems to be, and what happened at Yeovil with Haringey Borough, it seems to be happening more and more. Or is it the fact that now people are coming forward and pushing it out there rather than just saying, oh, well, he shouted something bad like that, that's okay, no problem. But it seems that are we getting on top of it, Johnny, or is it getting further away from us?
Well, we're clearly not. If you think that Slovan, who are Wolves' next opponent in the Europa League, had been ordered to play that game behind closed doors, they're going to have a maximum capacity in there of 21,000 supporters because they've been allowed to let the kids in. That's not behind closed doors. If you've got a capacity crowd, that is literally the opposite of behind closed doors. Hopefully, with this Serbian judgment, the relevant bodies actually stick to it. Lots to come on Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
Love Sport. Don't get caught out in the great energy price hike as large firms look to charge you more. If you want to save money on your energy bills, it's not too late to see what's on the market. With rising gas and electricity bills, don't get caught out wasting your money on expensive tariffs. A spokesman said we'll show you the very best value deals available. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could be using your savings to put towards a well-earned holiday.
With aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely. Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
Lots to come here on Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. You're with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and Love Sport's very own Martin Allen. We're talking about the shocking news that you are significantly more likely to develop dementia if you've been a professional footballer. And we've got a great range of guests as well. Sammy McElroy, the former United midfielder, and Tynus Delport, former South Africa winger. But first, the news.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 4, some breaking news. The Speaker of the House of Commons has blocked a vote on Boris Johnson's new Brexit deal. Parliament passed an act at the weekend to withhold support for the agreement until all the necessary legislation is passed. The government wanted to give MPs the chance to answer a straight yes or no on the deal this afternoon, but John Burrow says the same question has been posed twice.
Today's circumstances are in substance the same as Saturday's circumstances. My ruling is therefore that the motion will not be debated today, as it would be repetitive and disorderly to do so.
Police say they suspect 2 teenagers who died after being stabbed at a house party were targeted by uninvited guests wearing masks. The 17-year-old victims, who've been named as Dom Answer and Ben Gillam Rice, were attacked in Milton Keynes on Saturday night. Officers believe those behind the stabbings knew the victims. Our reporter Becky Johnson says police have issued a clear message.
They are telling the perpetrators that effectively they are coming to get them. They are urging those responsible to hand themselves in. They are also warning anybody who might be helping them to evade arrest that they are committing a criminal offence and could potentially be prosecuted.
3 people have been taken to hospital after breathing in fumes in the cabin of an American Airlines flight from London to Philadelphia. It had to be diverted to Dublin earlier after cleaning fluid was spilt. Abortion will be legalised in Northern Ireland at midnight, despite a last-minute attempt to stop that happening. Same-sex marriage is also becoming legal. A study's found former footballers are 3.5 times more likely to die from dementia than the general population. Researchers have been investigating fears heading the ball could be linked to brain injuries. And Britain's largest family is expanding. Mum Sue Radford has confirmed she's expecting her 22nd child more than 30 years after her first. That's the latest. I'm Will Rowe.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
Good afternoon. You're listening to the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and Love Sport's very own Martin Allen. Here are your top stories this afternoon. A study has found that ex-footballers are more than 3 times more likely to die of dementia than people of the same age in the general population. Andy Murray has been selected for Great Britain's Davis Cup team the day after he won his first singles title after career-saving hip surgery, and England have a fully fit squad to choose from for their World Cup semi-final against New Zealand next Saturday. It's Posh Boys on Drive, and our top story, Martin, this staggering study which shows ex-footballers who headed heavy leather balls are 3 times more likely to die of dementia and are also at increased risk of motor neurone disease and Alzheimer's. Absolutely staggering. Findings are based on medical records from 7,676 men who played professional football in Scotland between 1900 and 1976. We hear a lot that the footballs operational in broadly that era were not like the very velvety ones that the likes of Raheem Sterling are playing with today. They were leather for a start, which meant that because of its porous qualities, they were liable to get really, really heavy in the rain. Do you remember what they were like?
Yeah, well, my dad was a professional footballer, Johnny, at Reading Football Club. And there were times when I was young that he would have a football when he was playing, and they were heavy. They were big, brown leather, proper leather. And like you said, exactly right, it got heavy. and difficult to kick. How they headed it off of a goal kicks and boom back headers, I do not know. And Johnny, I've got to be honest with you. When I read him through this, these stats and the report up to 1976, and I wonder if there's going to be any report done after 1976 when the footballs perhaps weren't. Well, then we all know they're not like they are now. I was brought up 7-8 years old playing with mitre multiplex footballs, which hopefully a lot of people my age would remember as the best footballs you could get. Size
Really?
4.
I hated playing with mitres.
You didn't play, Johnny. What are you talking about? You was a skier, weren't you? You were a badminton player.
Well, excuse me. I played some football in my time.
But those balls were the best balls. If you had a mitre multiplex when you was at school, it was like they were the best balls. And I've been heading them, central midfield player, since I was a little boy. So you think now, going back all those years, probably playing 3 times a week when I was a schoolboy, and then through to professional football, probably once or twice a week, all those years, what am I now, 54, and you wonder to yourself, and you start to look at that, and he was 59, Jeff Astle, when he passed away, God bless him. You start to think to yourself, I wonder if I need to go to the doctor and have a check-up or a check-over. It certainly does create a lot of questions in my own personal mind, as I'm sure it will do for a lot of other footballers around my age.
Well, Jeff Astle was found to have died from an industrial disease. That was the phrase used in a 2002 inquest into his tragic death, i.e., this was something in effect contracted by things he had to do in his place of work. For you as a central midfield player, not just presumably that you were heading a football, but a lot of those aerial challenges would have been goal kicks, where it's gone for a very, very long way, kicked very hard, dropping out of the sky, even harder than just connecting with a cross. You're dealing with it crashing down on you.
Yeah. Yeah, but the ball don't hurt you, does it? When you're doing that, it doesn't hurt. And I'll take it a step further. When I was at Queen's Park Rangers, the coach showed us that the ball doesn't hurt as a training warm-up exercise by you holding the ball straight arms out in front of your head, 2 hands on the ball, and he would say, now head the ball 20 times. Obviously, you don't let it go. You hold it really tight, and you just used to bang the ball against your forehead.
You're headbutting a wall, effectively.
Headbutting the ball, not a wall. Bang, bang, bang. And you'd do about 20 of them. And he'd say, yeah, that ball doesn't hurt. Get in and attack it. That's the feeling that you want. And I've done that drill with players of mine. After I was taught it from a young age, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, I've done that drill. Not every day, of course, but in time. And when I've been a coach going forward, when it comes to doing crossing and shooting, you just go through that little routine. And the coach I had was one of the best coaches, by the way. And you think to yourself, I wonder if that's done me a bit of damage. And I wonder if that's what makes me sometimes forget people's names when I'm on Love Sport. And I can't quite get it right, Pete. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, Dave. Concerning findings, we'll have more on this story throughout the show. For now, we're turning our attentions to the biggest Premier League game of the weekend, United versus Liverpool. Very fortunate to be joined on the line by Sammy McIlroy, the former Manchester United midfielder. Good afternoon, Sammy. Thank you for joining us. This was a better performance for Ollie's men, wasn't it?
Well, it was, especially after the Newcastle game, which was dreadful, to be honest with you. I think yesterday's result was a better result for Manchester United than what it was for Liverpool. And to be honest with you, looking at the game, and I was at the game, I was very, very disappointed in Liverpool in the game yesterday. Very disappointed.
What made them so disappointing? Shouldn't we be giving more credit to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for the tactical change?
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you got to give Ole and the lads credit, because from the first whistle to the last, they give 100%, and the effort and the commitment was there. Obviously, against Liverpool, it is a massive rivalry, and we knew that United were going to raise their game. But with Liverpool and that magnificent run they're on, and going for a sort of like Premiership record, I don't think they did enough, and I was a little bit disappointed in Jurgen Klopp's comments as well, by sort of like dissing United's performance of being negative. Well, I mean, what do you expect when Liverpool, who are flying, come to Old Trafford in a massive derby game? Ollie had a game plan and it worked. It worked to perfection. And I actually thought United were going to hang on for the win. Liverpool were that inept in front of goal.
I'm glad you said that about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Sammy, because when we saw the team, did you think that those two wing backs that he picked were going to play back as a 5, or did you expect them to go high press and virtually play with 3 at the back? What did you think when you saw that lineup?
Well, when I did see it, I actually thought with Wan-Bissaka coming into the side, and he likes to get forward, but he's been out for a while, and it wasn't one of his better games, Jesse. But every opportunity, especially in the first half, the 2 wing backs actually had a go at getting down into the Liverpool's half, and I was, to be honest with you, a little bit concerned with the 3 at the back because we haven't really sort of used that system a lot. With Salah missing, which I think was a bonus for United, even though he hasn't ever scored against United, I thought like Firmino in that role might give us a little bit of problems by coming off the centre backs and in that hole. He did it occasionally first half, but it didn't really work for Liverpool. But I must admit, I was a little bit anxious with the 3 at the back and the wing back, but they coped quite well, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and all this criticism, Sammy, over the last couple of months, the manager's got to go, he's under pressure, there's someone else lined up. I don't think he's got enough credit today for, number one, the fullbacks, the wing-backs playing as high as they did, and then Rashford and James, didn't play as wingers, they played inside between the centre-backs and the full-backs, and that Pereira playing in number 10. I mean, who could have expected that to work as beautifully as what it did? And the manager deserves the credit, in my opinion.
Yeah, fair dues, fair comment as well. And I was, when I looked at Rashford and James there, I thought the way we might hurt Liverpool is that ball down the side for a little bit of pace between them two.
Yeah.
I think they caught them out maybe 1 or 2 times in the first half, but we were offside. We're a little bit too eager there. But that was a massive sort of statement from Ali to try that out, especially against the Liverpool side who are flying. And in the first half especially, I thought it worked quite well with James and Rashford. Rashford got the goal, and James, a fantastic ball across the box for the goal. So that actually worked on the day. Well, especially in the first half anyway.
Sammy, this was a much better performance, but there are still areas where United can improve. If I offered you now the opportunity to sign one player in the Premier League to come in and improve that side immediately, who would you go for?
Yeah, that's a good question because working yesterday after the game, a lot of people were asking the same question. I think everyone knows at the minute that we are up front. We're lacking. We're lacking a goal scorer, you can't depend on Martial, Rashford, Lingard, James, people like that. That sort of like get me 20-odd goals this season. I think we need an experienced one. I'll tell you something. You might laugh at me here. Maybe not in the Premiership, but the big Ibra in America. If we could get him back just to the end of the season, I'm sure he would give the club a lift.
Yeah,
and I'm sure he'd give the young players a lift around him. I'm not saying long term, nowhere near long term, but maybe just for a little bit, maybe like a sort of a Cantona situation, the way he came in and lifted everyone up at the club. I think Big Ibra, who's fit as a fiddle, okay, he's 38 years of age, but I've seen some of the goals he's scoring out there, and they're unbelievable. And I just think he may be the one that could give us a lift.
Just till the end of the season, I could see that, because they need someone to be a pivot player, don't they? That one that plays down the middle and let all the young lads run off of him with energy.
Absolutely.
Because he can score. I think that's a really good call. And what about that old Roy Keane, Happy Roy? Happy Roy yesterday just said, "Harry Kane, what you looking at?"
Well, I mean...
What about Harry Kane? Do you think they could afford him?
That's the thing. Can we afford Harry Kane? I mean, if we're going to get a stellar signing like that, we're going to have to break the bank, and you know that as well. But people like that, if Harry Kane, I mean, Spurs are a little bit unrested at the minute. There's something definitely happening in Spurs behind the scenes. If Harry Kane came available, we have got to be in the market for Harry Kane. Definitely. Proven goal scorer, captain of England. He's got to be on the list, definitely.
I think he does. Just finally, Sammy, with that 5 at the back operating really nicely for Ollie, would you like to see it more consistently?
I'm not 100% sure, to be honest with you. I think he maybe did that for the compact Liverpool. If it worked okay yesterday, and if they were sort of like keeping on at it, yeah, maybe. But I think he did that there for the Liverpool situation. And don't forget as well, we had the boy injured in before the game in the warm-up, Tunasebi, who I think is going to be a fantastic prospect. And then like Rahul came in his place, so there was a little bit of a mess up before the game there with him. But as far as the 5 go, I'm not too sure, to be honest with you.
I'm glad you said that, Sammy, because no one's even mentioned the fact that Tuanzebe, whatever his name is, weren't fit and pulled out after you've done set plays, you've done team play, set plays for and against, and just an hour, then you've got to put Rojo in, just like that. What a good performance he put in. And the last thing, I thought every Man United player that played with total commitment, pace, passion and determination, and that's got to be good for the manager, isn't it, Sam?
100%. But the only thing I can say, why does it have to take a game against Liverpool, who we know everyone's going to be up for it, the supporters are going to be up for it, the players, but why can't we sort of try to get that consistency in every game that we play? And that's a thing that the supporters are a little bit baffled with, because yesterday we haven't had that. Especially the home games and most of the away games, to be honest with you, we've been misfiring, and a lot of people have been questioning the effort and commitment. Ollie knows the players inside out, and he was delighted yesterday with that effort. And if we can keep that up against whoever we play, I'm sure we'll get better results.
Sammy, a real pleasure to talk to you as always. Thank you for your time. Sammy McIlroy there, former Manchester United midfielder. And we got some breaking news into the Love Sports studio, which is that the FA Cup 4th round qualifying game between Haringey Borough and Yeovil is to be replayed on Tuesday, October the 29th. Haringey Borough manager Tom Loiseau joined Love Sport Breakfast this morning. We'll hear what he had to say about the alleged incident of racist abuse very, very shortly.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Don't get caught out by rising energy bills this year. Leading price comparison site A Spokesman Said can help you save money in just minutes. Plus, sign up to A Spokesman Said to get the latest super cheap collective energy deals. These offers are such great value, they aren't even available direct from the energy companies. Savvy customers have saved over £10 million from collective energy deals. Go to aspokesmansaid.com and you could be saving big money on your bills.
With aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search 1U.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
I like Putin. He gets me. I like Trump. I've got him.
This is Love Sport.
Fantastic to hear from Sammy McIlroy just a moment ago talking about Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who's going to be available on a free very, very shortly. We're hearing that various Serie A sides, including Bologna and Genoa, could be in for him on a kind of 6-month deal. Would you subscribe to the idea, Martin, that actually Ibra could still do a job in the Premier League?
Yeah, I think he could. He's got the presence and the aura that I still think, from watching some of his games, that he could still play as that kind of old-fashioned number 9. He's got good technical ability, not just to boom up in the air to him, but to bring people into play and to score goals in games. You know, the goals are crucial, absolutely crucial. He hasn't got the pace that Rashford's got, of course, and young James. But if he played between the pair of them and those two playing off of him and around him, I think that could be good. Just to the end of the season, when then they've got to get a big player in.
They have indeed. Zlatan Ibrahimovic doesn't work with everyone. And one person he certainly doesn't work with is Pep Guardiola. The Spaniard signed him at Barcelona back in 2009. Tried to play him on the wing, and that didn't go down very well. We got a classic Zlatan quote out of the situation. When you buy me, you are buying a Ferrari. If you drive a Ferrari, you put premium petrol in the tank, you hit the motorway, and you step on the gas. Guardiola filled it up with diesel and took a spin in the countryside. He should have bought a Fiat. With that in mind, with both the ego and the desire to only get used in the way he wants to play, is he what United need in terms of coming in, possibly playing a bit part role, and not making Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's life a little more difficult than it needs to be?
I don't think he'll make it more difficult. They'll probably win more football matches, Johnny, and that will make him much, much happier. Obviously, you'd have to have a little chat with him. How do you feel about this coming in to lead the line for Manchester United through to the end of the season? And if he starts saying, no, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that, you tell him where he's going to play. Do you fit in? This is how we're going to play. This is what I want you to do. I can't always play you away from home because we might not have enough of the ball, but at home, I want you to win us games. Well, can you do that? Can we work together? See what his response is. If he's negative in any way, shape or form, you've already got the most negative drainer of energy in Pogba, who slows the game down repeatedly by having too many touches in midfield, which is why Mourinho dropped him, and a bad attitude because he wants to play Champions League and he doesn't think he should be at Manchester United because of all his jamojos. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. Can't wait to get... Huh?
Emojis.
Yeah. That's too many headers, Johnny. Too many headers.
Too many headers of a football. On the Ibrahimovic front, there could be an element where bringing him into the club could improve Paul Pogba. As you say, they're big mates.
Johnny, I ain't having that,
no,
Johnny.
I think it
Johnny,
absolutely could. When Ibrahimovic was at the club the first time, him and Pogba got on very, very well. But beyond that, Ibrahimovic is the only person who can kind of get Pogba under control. He's a bigger name than Pogba. He's done more than Pogba. He's richer than Pogba. He's as famous as Pogba. And Pogba really looks to him for advice. So if Ibrahimovic came back into that dressing room, stop sighing, if Ibra came back into that dressing room and said, hey, Paul, I'm the captain now, get your head down, work hard, he will give Pogba a hard time if Pogba messes around in midfield, because that will stop Ibra from getting the ball. Could he be the secret to getting Pogba firing?
To actually fire Pogba, is that what you're saying? To actually fire him?
To get him performing.
Johnny, for me, if you've got an unsettled dressing room and you've got a key character, a key player, not wanting to play, not wanting to fit in, doesn't want to be there, as soon as you've got that character within your group, you are in trouble. Especially if he's a good player and he's a catalyst in the middle of the field. The best thing that they could do with him is get a shot of him. And after watching that performance yesterday, that was a superb performance from Man United. Young players coming in, got pace with the young players up front. Pereira done a good job as a number 10, which no one knows his best position. Wan-Bissaka's come back too quick, probably ain't 100% fit, fitness-wise for match fitness. The young left-back who came on, so that they're starting to see some good young players coming through. But at the moment, every United fan that went to that game yesterday, and I don't support Man United, but you had to be impressed with the way they went about their game plan tactically from the manager and the way the players put absolutely everything into that performance. You've got to say that's going to give them a massive lift. If you bring a negative into that positive group, the rest of them are going to be looking around thinking, nah, what is he coming back into this team for? He will change this team. He has too many touches. He deliberately slows it down just to make himself look good. And when they lose the ball, he don't run back. I saw Man City play against Crystal Palace at the weekend. Oh my God. When they lose the ball, Man City, not a lot gets said about it. They went after it like a swarm of bees. They were like whoosh, tackling. Raheem Sterling, when he loses the ball, in closing down. It was 10 yards in front of me. And he don't just go and close down and stand 10 yards off and let the fullback knock it forward. He was right in his face, getting his foot in. And that guy that played up front, Jesus, oh my God, what a player.
I thought you were saying Jesus, he's good. And then I thought, no, still very much his name. We'll be talking Man City in just a moment. I agree with you. He was superb. I just want to come back to the striker issue at Manchester United. I think you and I are agreed that they need one, and agreed that they need one who possibly brings a slightly different dynamic, someone more physical than Marcus Rashford. Roy Keane on Sky yesterday said, just go and get Harry Kane. He said it in a very blasé way. Just go and get him. He'll come. Go and get Kane. Simple. 2 questions. Firstly, is Harry Kane the man United need? Would he be a good signing? And secondly, would it be that straightforward? Would he necessarily want to go to Old Trafford?
Well, number one, he would. I would see 3 things to this, Johnny. Number one, would he be a good player for Manchester United? And without a shadow of a doubt, he would. Could you see him playing as a number 9 with Rashford on one side and James on the other side? That would be a tremendous team. And and they have not got at the moment a 20-plus goal scorer in their team. And when I was brought up, Johnny, whenever the best player became available, Manchester United bought them. Whoever it was, they got the best player of every club, and every best player wanted to play for Manchester United. But I think that aura has currently been diluted after years of dominance by Man City, the emergence now of Liverpool back into the forefront, and players will be wondering if they really want to play for Manchester United. Secondly, he would be a fantastic player for them. Can they afford him? Well, you'd have to say he would probably be, between 150 million?
He'd be around that. I think you'd get Daniel Levy. Daniel Levy would come to the table if 150 million was on it or near it.
Well, their owners have got billions, and how much they're making. So 150 to 170 million would probably be, I would say, an okay figure for a club as big as Manchester United, and how brilliant Ed Woodward's done off the field to bring all this money in. Well, maybe they should start spending it on some top quality players and not bringing in bang average players. And then lastly, would Harry want to go there? You'd have to say the biggest clubs in the world. He's 26 now, I think, Harry Kane.
He's got one move, right? One big move.
He's got one big move. Spurs. Is that going to be Barcelona, Real Madrid, Man City, or Manchester United? And you'd probably say Manchester United would be 4th in that list at the moment.
Well, I wanted to call Roy Keane out a little bit. I've been really, really enjoying his punditry the last few years. I think it's great that we get so much more of him on our screens now. He's joined the Super Sunday team. But I think that was a really lazy bit of punditry. Not because I think that it's crazy to suggest that Harry Kane would be a good signing for Man United. Far from it. I would love to see Harry Kane come and play for Man United. And that's speaking as a fan. I think the way he sat there and said it was speaking as a player who played in the era that Roy Keane played. The point was Alex Ferguson could sit around with David Gill, maybe the chief scout, and they could go, we've got names here, we've got Ruud van Nistelrooy there, we've got Alan Shearer there, we've got Andy Cole there, who do we want? Right, him, let's go and get him. And I know that was the case, but Roy Keane has to be aware that while you could get, say, Harry Maguire, another England teammate of Kane's called Harry, because he was coming from a team that, as it stood, were outside of Europe and looking up rather than down. But Harry Kane's a different matter entirely. He is still playing Champions League football, and I don't know, I would question Harry Kane massively, his ambition, his reasons for doing so, for coming to Man United right now. I go, is he just coming for the money like so many others have? I don't think he would, by the way, but if he did, that's what I'd think.
You know what, Guy? I think you're absolutely spot on. But I actually think that Roy Keane knew exactly what he was doing. I think it is superb punditry because he knows full well he's wrong. And I'm normally the first person to criticise Roy Keane.
Why is he wrong?
In that scenario, because Roy Keane understands enough about modern football that he knows it is not as straightforward as going, just go and get Harry Kane. Oh yeah, just go and negotiate with Daniel Levy for 6 months and get it across the line and persuade the player to sign. He understands the complexities of that. What he's doing is exactly why we've got him and Souness and Mourinho in that room. He's on the wind-up. It's pantomime. It's absolutely brilliant entertainment.
He's the best centre-forward, and in the past, Manchester United have always bought the best centre-forwards.
But the way he says it.
Always. Well, I'm not being funny, Johnny. If you're sat down with Ed Woodward and he says to the manager, what do you need to improve? What do we need to do to get back up? The first thing you say was, you would have to say, for a 26-year-old, sign us Harry Kane. And he said, OK, thanks very much. They sent Ed Woodward's job then to contact Spurs, contact Harry Kane's agent, get in touch and get the deal put together and get the best centre-forward. That's what Manchester United used to do. So why is that a wind-up?
Because the way he said it is just go and get Harry Kane.
But that is the attitude. That has got to be the ruthless attitude. You can't say Harry Kane or Ibrahimovic or Dybala or...
Okay.
Which one do you want? Go and get him. That's it. Walk out the room and let me have him ready for the start of next season and get him ready. So a club like Manchester United, as far behind as they are to Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, they are miles behind. If they want to get back, they have got to go bang. Walk out the door, Ed, do your stuff.
Tell you what, for those of you listening at home, we're going to play you the clip of Roy Keane now. Now, I want you to make your own minds up. Get in touch on WhatsApp, 0208 70 20 558. You can hear Roy now. Is he on the wind-up or is he deadly serious? Let's have a listen.
Just go and get Kane from Spurs, it's easy.
You'll be popular with Spurs fans.
Just go and get him.
Serious?
Yeah, what you're staring at, yeah.
But that's what Man United, that's what Man United should be batting. Right, that's what Man United should be batting. Go for the best, always have done.
They're in disarray, go and get him.
It's what they should be doing, Martin, you're nodding. But is it what they can be doing? He says easy.
Why can't they?
Because they're 7th in the... No, they're 13th in the Premier League table. 2 points off relegation. Playing terrible football in a team...
They're not playing terrible football. They weren't terrible yesterday.
No top striker... Harry Kane could go to any team in the world. He's got his pick of any manager, any club. Why would he go there? They're dining out on past glory.
There's him, and there's the guy from Glasgow Rangers, Morelos,
yeah.
Okay, they don't just need Harry Kane. They'd also take him as well.
Okay.
So you take two strikers. They've got to go for Manchester United to get up and challenge Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus, Man City, Liverpool. They've got to go for the best players.
Do you think Morelos is in that category?
I think he deserves a chance. Because he's a goal scorer and he's got huge, what they call cajolas or whatever it is.
Gonads.
Yes, he has got nuts, and I think I would take a chance on him into that squad if they are going to challenge and get back to what they were. They've got to do something like that. And when Graham Souness followed it up with, well, if they want to compete at the very top level, that's the type of players they've got to get. And it is. Whether Spurs now have to sell is another matter. Whether Harry Kane would want to go to Manchester United, like you say, where they are in the Premier League, would he want to go there? But I've got to say, Johnny, Manchester United could put huge sums of money on the table, and all of a sudden that move might be the right move.
Well, Ed Woodward, go and get him. It's easy. Coming up, we're talking rugby, and we're going to be chatting to Tynus Delport, former South Africa winger.
Love sport. You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it,
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not, but with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
This is Love Sport.
England are in a World Cup semi-final. The same can be said of the Springboks. We are joined on the line by Tynus Delport, former South Africa winger. Good afternoon, Tynus. Thanks for joining us. How good were South Africa at the weekend, but how good have Japan been throughout the tournament as well?
I think first of all, let's just credit Japan for an amazing tournament, not just in terms of playing, but also hosting. The atmosphere at the stadiums, for me, most impressive. If you watch the little ball boys and girls that were escorting the team out and they were singing the national anthems of the respective teams, these young kids were absolutely singing it to the best of their ability. So, in terms of putting on a rugby spectacle, Japan has been absolutely fantastic. And then backing that up was their amazing performances on the field. The surprise against Ireland, don't think anyone expected that. And then in backing it up against Scotland. But ultimately, unfortunately for them, the fairy tale finished against a very clinical South African display, especially in the second half. I thought the first half was a little bit nervy. There was a couple of opportunities that the Springboks didn't take, but then second half just squeezed any potential threat from Japan out of them, and epitomized by that 40-meter driving maul that was just rumbling down the field, and unfortunately Japan couldn't do anything about it. So credit to South Africa. I thought analysing the game, coming up with a game plan to really stifle the exciting Japanese play, sticking to it, and then ultimately squeezing them out in the second half.
And of course, South Africa now face Wales, a nervy one for them. They got across the line by 1 point versus France, with, of course, the aid of that controversial red card. Are you feeling confident of getting a win and getting through to that final?
I wouldn't say confident. I think both sides, if you look at the teams on paper, is probably very similarly matched. I think the difference will be off the bench. I think the players coming off the bench for South Africa potentially will be stronger, and that's really in the modern game where the game is going to be decided with the utilization of the players off the bench. But I think Wales are very aware the fact that they were lucky to win that game. I thought they were probably beaten by France up to that stage, and then that moment of madness, and they got the red card. Compare that to South Africa. I think they've taken a lot of confidence in the way they played, especially that second half, where they've stuck to that plan. They had a real mental shift for me in that second half. They were a lot more aggressive in the defence. They you could see there was a lot more urgency in their play and really stepping up their performance. So I think on the back of those two results, South Africa probably should be a little bit more confident going into the semi-final.
And Tynus, England's game against New Zealand, could we actually beat them, or are they just so far ahead that we're just turning out for the great occasion?
No, you know what? I've been saying it after the weekend. I think England has got the team to surprise the All Blacks. I think
really?
going into the game, I think of course the All Blacks will be favourites. They looked so sharp against Ireland. It looked like they stepped up another level in terms of their execution. Their accuracy in all their skills was just spot on. But I do think England will possess players and a team culture that can upset the All Blacks. Vunipola, Tuilagi, Farrell. I mean, there's some massive big characters in that team that can get under the skin of the All Blacks and really frustrate them.
Wow. I've got to ask you the biggest question of all, Tynus, which is, who's going to win the Rugby World Cup?
Well, I mean, there's going to be no surprise coming from an ex-Springbok.
Oh no! Don't say South Africa.
Yes, I do think it's going to be a South Africa-England final, though.
Do you think South Africa get to the final? Do you think they'll get to the final?
Well, it's only one more game. It's against Wales in the semi-final, and it's going to be very close. It's going to be very close. The recent history of South Africa-Wales, the last 4 or 5 years. I don't think there were really any tests that were decided by more than 5 points. So it's been very close. So I think it's going to be a nervous 80 minutes for South African supporters, but they're just going to edge it.
Well, good luck to you, Tynus. Hopefully we can catch you later on in the week ahead of those semi-finals. Great to speak to you as well. Thanks for your time. Tynus Delport there, former South Africa winger, feeling very, very confident. Did you know, Martin Allen, that my great-great-grandfather played for the Springboks?
Really?
So those genes have gone missing somewhere.
Yeah.
Genuinely. Pro boxer as well, so those genes really have gone missing somewhere.
Wow.
Hard to imagine, isn't it, Martin?
Pardon?
Hard to imagine Johnny Burrow having a same great-grandfather, was a boxer and an international rugby player.
I could see Johnny in the line-out.
Yeah, I suppose.
Standing in there, catching it as they all jump up. I couldn't really see him in a
ton of muscle.
As a boxer, he'd be looking down on people, wouldn't he?
He'd have a long reach. He'd have a long reach. He'd have a sort of Tyson Fury reach.
So, Johnny, where's your family from? From South Africa?
Yep, on my mum's side.
Wow.
There we go. Crazy. And he's probably eligible to play for South Africa. So
yep, I am.
Maybe if there's a late injury call-up.
Need a quick call-up, need a second row.
I'll tell you what, Johnny, they must be proud of you.
They very much
are. They must be so
South Africa
proud
as a nation.
Yeah. No, all your family down there, and they say, "Oh, we've got a nephew who's working in London. He's a DJ."
Crocodile Dundee, your uncle.
That's Australian, is it? Is that Australian, Johnny?
You're back on Digger.
Look, mate. It's just a game of rugby, got a World Cup
Johnny,
semi-final.
can you believe? I'm glad you brought up them. When we beat them on Saturday morning.
This is your neighbours, for context.
Yeah, my next door neighbours were Australians. So when the rugby was on and every time we scored, I'd jumping up and shouting as loud as possible to annoy them. And when we won, I was outside on the patio. Hooray! Go on, England! And they're next door, and I was like, oh, I love this.
I'm amazed I can ever convince an Australian to come back on this show, because no Australian since about the middle of August has been able to come on without being asked whatever they're talking about, rugby, cricket, or anything else besides, without being asked how good a moment it was when Nathan Lyon fumbled that ball, to which they go, what are you on about, mate? Obviously, it's not a great moment for me. But you can't resist, can you?
On that point, Sports Personality of the Year, they do have an Overseas Player of the Year, don't they?
They do.
I think, and that's got to be Nathan Lyon.
It should be, shouldn't it?
The happiness he's brought to this nation when he dropped that ball on that run out was just awesome.
He'd certainly get Jack Leach's vote. And actually, it sort of links to something I wanted to talk about quickly. I think maybe we'll do this later in the show as well when we talk more Rugby World Cup. But it's all about top level sport, especially in tournament play. It's about keeping your composure under pressure. And I thought this weekend we're one of the great examples of, if you like, a tale of two tempers. You had, I thought, Carl Sinclair having his best game in an England shirt. There have been other good games that Carl Sinclair has had, but this was a complete performance. He was complete in the scrum, in the loose, and in defence, and he didn't get riled up as he did just earlier this year against Wales in the Six Nations. And then you had Sebastian Verhaemena, who had scored a try early in the first half for France. He had helped France build a good lead against a fancied Wales side, and then he had that absolute moment of madness, that vicious elbow to the neck of Aaron Wainwright that cost his team. Let's make no mistake about it. They lost by 1 point in the dying minutes. They would have been in the World Cup semi-final, France, and he has cost his team that game. And I'm not going to lay into him too much. He's retired from international rugby today. We are hearing that's not being kind of absolutely confirmed. He could reverse that decision at some point, of course. He will be suffering more than anyone today. But it shows you, it reminds you, it's as much about keeping your cool under pressure as it is about how good you are at rugby or cricket, wherever it might be.
This is a serious suggestion. I'm not on the wind-up, although it's going to sound like I am. Should he have a chat with Zinedine Zidane? Should someone give him Zidane's phone number as another Frenchman who had a moment of red mist?
That was a headbutt, wasn't it?
Was
into his chest.
In the 2006 World Cup final on Marco Materazzi. There you've got another Frenchman who had a moment of madness which cost his nation in a World Cup. He might have a few words of advice.
Yeah, and on that point, that's a good one. I like what you said there, Guy, about calmness under pressure. Ben Stokes, that innings that he played under pressure with the wickets running down and the tension within that stadium, that again was under pressure. He was his expressions, his facial expressions, his calmness, he seemed to shut off the outside world and just focus on his innings. And I think that was calmness under pressure personified to absolutely maximise the most and take it to the end. And that was why I really do think that was one of the best innings I've ever seen.
He was the calmest person anywhere in the country. I don't know how he did it, but you're quite right. He could not have done it if he was feeling like you were at home, like I was at home, like all those fans in the ground were, because the excitement, the tension was getting to all of us. We couldn't sit still. We couldn't even watch it at times. There he was, literally facing nearly every ball, making every decision spot on. Let's hope that the England rugby players can learn from that and produce another good performance on Saturday. We can beat that New Zealand team. Almost called
Do you
the All
reckon we
Blacks.
can beat them?
We can. We can. We lost out by a point less than a year ago, remember, in the autumn internationals. We went 50-0 up. We gave away that lead, lost 16-15. I don't think we'll let that happen again.
Right, okay.
Well, that is the point. It's about learning from mistakes. And as we were saying, it's about remaining calm under pressure. When you're watching that hacker, not going, oh, they look a bit scary. Just going, no, they are a rugby team. They are 15 men and we can beat them. Coming up, we're talking Andy Murray.
Giving your team a voice. Love Sport Radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Are you paying way over the odds for your car insurance? The spiralling costs put people off driving, full stop. But you're a careful driver, and realistically, you'll only need an insurance payout if some halfwit cuts you off on the M1. So you shouldn't be forced to pay massive car insurance premiums. And you don't have to. Go to price comparison site spokesmansaid.com today and find out the best value car insurance deals on the market. Don't pay the price for not shopping around.
spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
Whoa! Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
I have my own radio station too. It's called Love Trump Radio. The only station 100% fair and 112% factual.
Love Sport. You're listening to the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and Love Sport's very own Martin Allen. A reminder of our top story this afternoon. We're hearing that ex-footballers who headed heavy leather balls are 3 times more likely to die of dementia and are at increased risk of motor neuron disease and Alzheimer's. We're going to be speaking to Dr. Alison Evans, Head of Policy at Alzheimer's Research UK, after 5. So make sure you stay tuned all the way throughout the show. For now, we're talking Andy Murray. What a result, winning his first ATP title, returning back from hip resurfacing surgery. We're joined on the line by Abigail Johnson, who is Love Sport tennis correspondent. Good afternoon, Abigail. Just how impressive was this?
So impressive, and Murray is showing exactly what kind of a fighter and what kind of a competitor he is and what we've always known him to be. But I think when you look at the grand scheme of things and how he's built up his results over the past few weeks, the past few months, it just makes it all the more impressive because he hasn't got downhearted at any of his early losses after just coming back to the singles court. He's taken everything as a positive. He's gradually improved his movement, gradually improved his serve, and come to the point where, you know, he's not winning matches easily, but he's starting to peak more in the big moments, which is what it's all about when it comes to winning big titles and big tennis matches. And the fact that he could win 3 straight 3-setters to clinch this trophy, not having been back on the singles court long, is really impressive given everything he's come through.
Abigail, when we were talking about the potential end of his career, the potential to maybe come back and play a bit of doubles, did you think we would ever be having this conversation, talking about him winning a singles title again?
I did, yeah.
Did you actually?
No, honestly, I remember coming on one of your shows in January or February, and I said I thought he'd come back and win titles, and I kind of got laughed at. So I was like, oh, did I have said that? But the thing with Murray is that he's so gritty and he's such a competitor, and I think he can tend to be a bit pessimistic, and he kind of plays his chances down, which is why I thought everyone was so convinced he was going to retire, because he was so depressed at that point in January when he said, oh, not sure how long I can keep going, these are my options. And Murray, for all the criticism he's given for having no personality and for being a boring person, gets very, very emotional, and his emotions can kind of carry him away sometimes. And yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous thing that he's done, coming back from a surgery that was supposed to improve his quality of life, not his opportunities to play on the circuit again. But you look at people like Murray, like Nadal, Federer, Djokovic, and it comes to a point where they defy logic because of their competitive spirit, because of everything they've come through. The various battles they've overcome over the years have hardened them, have made them stronger than I think even they themselves realize. And for Murray, you know, it was always just the hip that bothered him. I think the reason he was so upset at first was because he said, it's just the hip. The rest of my body feels like he can play for another 2-3 years. So if that's been sorted out, and shout out to the surgeon that got that done, why can't he win more titles? And he's showing exactly that now. His body is in the place it needs to be to not just win titles, but again, play the way he wants to. He didn't beat Wawrinka by smashing winners and blasting him off the court. He beat him playing the way he wants to play, being defensive, making him play the extra balls, and taking advantage of the scoreboard pressure.
Abigail, Murray was a set and a break down against Wawrinka. Just talk us through how he played, how he came back from that deficit.
Yeah, absolutely, because Wawrinka didn't play a bad match at all. Actually, at the beginning of the match, he was looking very much on the ball. He was, I mean, if you go to the highlights reel, okay, the ATP put up highlights reels of the big matches. You didn't see a winner from Murray on that highlights reel until the set point of the second set. That's how much it was about Wawrinka and him stepping up and him being aggressive. So Murray's not got many options when Wawrinka's redlining like that. He needs to get his first serves in, he needs to get his returns in, and he just needs to make Wawrinka play, because Wawrinka, as talented as he is a player who can self-destruct under pressure. And that's what Murray's aim was to do, to keep engaging in the longer rallies, to make him feel it in the pressure moments. Wawrinka twice had break points to serve for the title, once in the second set, once in the third set. On those occasions, Murray came out with big serves, with all-court tennis, And that's something that he has lacked in some key moments leading up to this tournament. It's a process of getting that time on court and getting the confidence in those big moments to find his shots, find his marks on the court and see himself through. And yeah, I think it was a grinding win for Murray, and his best tennis came when he needed it most.
He's also been named in the Davis Cup team for the first time since 2016. Do you think that is the right decision, and how strong is our team more broadly?
Well, I mean, if you look at the year to date, Murray's obviously only played the past few months, but he's already won an ATP title. And Kyle Edmund, who was recently British #1, he's on a 7-match losing streak, having a go at it against Matteo Berrettini at the moment, actually, in Vienna, who's in the third set. But, I mean, you look at Murray's results, you look at Murray's history, and with him playing pain-free, it would be stupid to leave him out. Let's be real. He's in there as a singles player alongside Dan Evans. Evans has won multiple challenger titles this year. He's really stepped it up on the ATP circuit. He's pushed some of the best, had some great wins, and is deservedly British #1. So I don't think anyone can take too much issue with those picks for the singles players. Then you've got Jamie Murray and Neil Skutsky for the doubles. They've been working hard at their partnership, had a good run at the US Open. And then you look, because it's the Davis Cup finals, it's not the original format of the Davis Cup we're used to, so it's played across 2 weeks, and Britain start in a group stage, I think, with Kazakhstan and the Netherlands. And taking Murray and Evans on the singles court alone, I don't think those two countries can compete with that quality of player, the two players with the experience and the skill set that Murray and Evans both have. So even taking the doubles out of consideration, really, with the form that Murray and Evans are both in, that's a very, very winnable group.
It is indeed. Abigail, thank you for your time. Abigail Johnson there, who is Love Sport tennis correspondent. I love a sporting comeback. I have to say, I just love the brink of the career-ending injury back to winning it. It's such a good narrative, Martin.
Yeah, it is. What does narrative mean?
Narrative, story.
Story.
Story time.
Well, it's remarkable. Everyone loves him, don't they? You know, he's actually pushed tennis in this country. You know, he's been brilliant, hasn't he? He's been brilliant for tennis.
He really has.
And the way he conducts himself, Johnny, I love that.
Yeah, well, people are coming round to this. I think initially Andy was definitely thought of as a very humourless man, but we are warming to him as a nation. He is. Let's hear from Andy Murray quickly.
Last few years have been extremely difficult. Both, actually, me and Stan have had a lot of injury problems in the last couple of years. And yeah, amazing, obviously, to be back playing against him in a final like that. I mean, I think it was a great match. Obviously, third set was extremely close again, but yeah, amazing. I didn't expect to be in this position at all, so yeah, I'm very, very happy.
Yeah, you know what? I think humourless is probably fair. That is Andy Murray in celebration mode. I wouldn't want to hear him after a loss.
This is Love Sport.
Every day someone dies waiting for a transplant. From spring 2020, the law around organ donation in England is changing to allow more people to pass on more organs to save more lives. Unless you choose to opt out or in an excluded group, all adults will be considered as a possible organ donor when they die. Whatever your choice, make it clear to your family and closest friends to ensure your decision is honoured. To find out more, or for the choice to opt out, visit organdonation.nhs.uk. Pass it on.
Home insurance is vital. You don't want to end up paying through the nose when something goes wrong. But are you being charged way too much for your home cover? Are your insurance premiums simply too much to bear? It doesn't have to be that way. A spokesmansaid.com is a price comparison website that trawls the internet to find the best deal for you. Don't pay the price for not shopping around. Visit a spokesmansaid.com and start saving today.
spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
When your kids are ill, you just want to help them feel better. But you don't always need antibiotics. Get advice from your local pharmacy or search NHS Choices. Oh, it's okay. Let's face it, when your kids are ill, you do anything to help them feel better. But remember, antibiotics aren't always needed. You might not realise it, but taking antibiotics when you don't need them puts you and your family at risk of a longer and more severe illness. Help keep your family well. Always take your doctor's advice on antibiotics. Search NHS antibiotics. Or better.
We've got a top-class hour coming up for you on Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive, continuing our discussion of our top story. Ex-footballers who headed heavy football are 3 times more likely to develop dementia and, of course, to die of the disease. Really troubling news. We'll be joined by an expert from Alzheimer's UK to discuss that issue. And we're also going to be talking to former Arsenal keeper Graham Stack ahead of the Gunners game against Sheffield United tonight. They can go third if they win, but it looks like exactly the kind of game Arsenal could conspire to lose. We'll be getting his thoughts there. Of course, talking more rugby and, I think, a bit on the wonders of Manchester United under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. But first of all, it's time for all your latest headlines.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 5, Boris Johnson suffered another setback in his attempt to secure a vote on his Brexit deal. It's been blocked because the House of Commons Speaker says it's too similar to the one held on Saturday. In that vote, MPs chose to delay their support for the agreement and demanded the PM ask the EU for a Brexit delay. Despite this, John Burrow insists the UK can still leave by the current deadline.
I have made a principled judgment, and there is every opportunity for the government, with the support of the House, not only to have its say, but to get its way by the end of October. And I don't think I need to add anything to that.
Officers investigating the fatal stabbings of 2 teenage boys at a house party in Milton Keynes believe the attackers knew their victims. 17-year-old Dom Anser and Ben Gillam Rice died on Saturday night. A study's found former footballers are 3.5 times more likely to die from dementia than the general population. A team at Glasgow University has been investigating fears that heading the ball could be linked to brain injuries. The research didn't find what the exact causes are, but Bobby Barnes, who's the Deputy Chief Executive of the Players Football Association, says the evidence must be taken seriously.
If in the event that, whether it be heading the ball or any other activity, is deemed to be potentially harmful to members, then we've got to look at that together with the whole global football community to see how we best deal with that.
A burglar's been ordered to pay Lord Sugar more than £170,000 in compensation. The 50-year-old previously admitted 11 break-ins, including at the Stars home in Essex, between December 2015 and June 2017. The FA Cup tie between Haringey Borough and Yeovil, which was abandoned on Saturday after alleged racist abuse, will be replayed next week. 2 men have been arrested. And the first full-length trailer for the new series of The Crown has been released. Netflix has put out the teaser on social media, offering users a near 2.5-minute glimpse into the 3rd season. That's the latest. I'm Will Rowe.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
Good evening, it's the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. You're with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and Love Sport's very own Martin Allen. Your top stories this evening. A study has found that ex-footballers are more than 3 times more likely to die of dementia than people of the same age in the general population. Andy Murray has been selected for Great Britain's Davis Cup team the day after he won his first singles title after career-saving hip surgery. He is back. And England have a fully fit squad to choose from for their World Cup semi-final against New Zealand next Saturday. This is Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. And of course, our top story is this really troubling study about Alzheimer's. It didn't just find that you're 3 times more likely to die of dementia if you're an ex-footballer heading a leather ball. It also found you've got a 5-fold increase in Alzheimer's, a 4-fold increase in developing motor neuron disease, and a 2-fold increase in developing Parkinson's disease. So across the board, trouble when it comes to these degenerative brain conditions. Important to note, this was a study done of men who played professional football in Scotland between 1900 and 1976. Now, with that in mind, Martin, These were guys heading those old-fashioned leather footballs, which were very, very heavy and became even more heavy in the rain. I think we could have suspected there was going to be a link between repeatedly heading heavy items and having problems with your brain later in life. But this is surely more shocking than anything we could have expected.
Yeah, I don't think any of us were expecting such high numbers and percentages and ratios that they've put out. And I can't deny, Johnny, I know this report's done with those older style of footballs, those leather footballs that you talk about. And you mentioned in the rain they're even heavier, up until 1976. And I do wonder, obviously, when I started playing around about 1976, there was the new footballs out that were called Mitre Multiplex. Fantastic footballs to play with, size 4 in those days, of course. But I've been taught to head the ball from a very young age and finished playing football when I was, 33, 34, often 3 times a week. And I do wonder, are they now going to do a study on players from my era, my generation, on the lighter, smoother, not as heavy footballs to test it out, what effect it's had on me, us, all of us? It does make me wonder. And what am I, 55 now? And you think to yourself, I wonder if there's going to be those sorts of problems for me and us in the future.
How many times do you think you would have headed a football in the average week? That's a GCSE maths question, isn't it?
Johnny, I just said I might have it, so how am I supposed to work that out?
If Christopher has 4 apples.
Johnny, you can't ask me that.
Well, hang on, let's think about it.
How many times have I headed a football each week? Well, in training, probably, you're going to edit in training. You're training Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, games, warm-up drills. God, hundreds. I couldn't answer that question, Johnny. I can see where you're coming from, but I ain't at that level. I'm your public school boy. I can't work that out, for God's sake. No, thousands and thousands and thousands over all those years, and you do wonder. And I'm sure the alarming results that have been, we're seeing in front of us today. They've got to now step up and say, well, what about this new type of football? What effect? Because it might not be as high, it probably won't be, hopefully won't be, but there must be something to look into. They've got to be.
Well, this has already been a problem topic for the PFA, and with this new study, there are going to be new allegations that, frankly, the PFA haven't done enough to help players who develop these conditions. But more to the point, why on earth haven't they commissioned this kind of study earlier? Because if we're all sitting here going, yeah, heading a really heavy leather football is probably bad for your brain, the only responsible response to that is to commission this kind of research as soon as possible and go, right, hang on a minute, this is serious. Some of these guys, let's be clear here, are in serious danger. And there should now be a process of thinking back through history, looking back at the records of anyone who played football in this period and moving on into the modern era, looking at centre forwards in particular, centre halves in particular, going, you headed X amount of these footballs. Let's start getting some scans in place. Let's start getting some checkups and making sure that if any other footballers, like was the case with Jeff Astell, for example, are unfortunate enough to develop these conditions, we can catch it early and we can give them the support that they need.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But I'm not blaming the PFA here, but we haven't had a response from the PFA. We haven't spoken to the PFA, so we haven't actually got their side of it for their opinion. But who has authorised this study? Who's done this? Who's put this study together? The FA?
This is through the PFA.
Through the PFA.
But it's only coming now.
No, these are the results now, Johnny. So it wasn't authorised. They didn't authorise the report to be done yesterday, and it's come up with results today. This has probably been going on for a long, long time. This is not something you can just flick your coin and all of a sudden out it comes of a mega report from 1900 to 1975. So I wonder if the PFA or the FA have looked into and authorised already a study for, like I say, players from my era, my generation, with these different type of footballs that we're all used to now, because and what effect it may have had. And I'm not sure I buy that, Johnny, with centre backs and centre forwards. I just think it should be all footballers should get tested and to see what can be done about it, because for me that's one of those. It is a worry. I can't deny that, Johnny.
Well, we'll be speaking to Alzheimer's Research UK's head of policy in around 10 minutes' time, getting an expert view on this. For now, I want to touch on Arsenal in action tonight against...
That's your team, Johnny, isn't it?
I couldn't possibly comment.
But you also like Tottenham. I can't get my head round.
You always say this. I never say... I would like to go on record.
Kind of like Tottenham.
I didn't say I like Tottenham. I said I don't have a problem with Tottenham. I don't go in for this kind of mindless tribalism. Anyway, Arsenal can go third in the league with a win tonight against Sheffield United. If they do that, they'll just be 1 point off Manchester City. Is there an argument that the Gunners are still in the title race?
Yeah, I think they are. Just a little bit behind it. But I kind of seem to remember over the last few weeks, people were saying, Unai Emery, is he under pressure? I'm sure I've heard people speculating about his future and this is a must-win game. I'm sure they have that trend nowadays where the manager's under pressure. Oh, if he doesn't win this game, he's going to be out, and we don't agree with what Unai Emery's doing and he don't know what he's doing and all that sort of stuff. God, it don't half do my head in. Just watch your team and support your team and get behind them. There's going to be some ups and downs, and this transitional period, what he's introduced there, has been fantastic. And he's done it without Bellerin, the right back, without the new signing from Celtic, the left back Tierney, and he's also done it without the centre back Holding, who's just come back. He has got together a decent group of players, and everybody smiles and laughs and ridicules Mustafi, but he has got a fantastic record. When he plays, they get good results. And Arsenal, for me, if they win tonight, they'll be fully deserved to be in that position. And what I like about it, Johnny, is he's left Ozil out, who has not been committed to the team, who sulks and moans and don't chase the ball back when he ain't got it. And he's got a good team together with a great work ethic. And I think things are looking up for Arsenal because they've got some very, very good young players.
Well, Unai Emery has been talking about the club's most highly paid player, Mesut Ozil, and saying that his attitude is improving. Let's hear from Unai now.
They were in front to him in that moment. But now I am feeling better with him every day in the training, and also he's another possibility more in the squad now to play and to help us.
If he came back into the team, Martin, would Mesut Ozil improve Arsenal?
No, Johnny, no. We spoke about this with Manchester United, Johnny. Bring back Pogba with his white hoodie covered in yellow, orange and red graffiti, walking round at Old Trafford before the game yesterday. No, thank you very much. At the moment, if you go and see Arsenal play, they've got young players that have come through their academy that play with energy, enthusiasm, pace, are happy to help their team. They play for the club, they play for the team, they play for the supporters. They don't play for themselves. When you've got the ball, when you haven't got the ball. When I watched Manchester City play on Saturday at Crystal Palace, their work rate, every single player when they didn't have the ball, oh my God, they were so fast to tackle Crystal Palace. It never gave Crystal Palace a chance to settle on the ball. When Ozil plays for Arsenal and they don't have the ball, he walks back into midfield. Oh my God, you can't afford that. Football is not like that anymore. You cannot have those players. And if he's not committed to the team is more important than him, then you're no good. And by the manager coming out and saying, his attitude is improved.
Is he German?
Yes. Then his attitude is improved. How bad does that look on Ozil? What are you saying? His attitude was bad. It was wrong. Of course he is. I saw him play against Forest just a few weeks ago on a Tuesday night. He was the captain. He went for a 1-2, and when he didn't get the ball back, he shook his head, looked at the grass and just walked back down the middle like he was walking around Hampstead Heath. That ain't no good. You got to get the ball back as quick as you can and deliver. Brilliant in possession, don't get me wrong, but ain't good enough.
Well, what about Arsenal's opponents tonight, Sheffield United? They've got just one win at home so far this season, but Blades boss Chris Wilder reckons his side can cause an upset tonight.
I think all the performances so far, and we talked about it, our away record's obviously been better than our home record in terms of points. I think the performances at home have been really good, and we've been competitive in all the home games, and we have to add the goals.
Martin, we always expect sides to do better at home and then struggle away. That is traditionally the pattern. And particularly given the atmosphere at Bramall Lane, you'd expect Sheffield United to do well in Sheffield. Why are they doing better away from home, and does that worry you at all?
Johnny, the very last bit of Chris's interview, he said, we need to score goals. That is the key.
Is Lys Mousset not doing it for them, mate?
He scored 2 and got on points. Got on points. Bang. Well, so for the listeners, Johnny said, Lys Mousset, 10 million, what a waste of money. That's out of order. So each time, and it's happened twice, Mousset has won games for Sheffield United. I send Johnny a text and say, 10 million. Mousset scores again for points for Sheffield United. And Johnny sends me a very polite 2-worded text, which I can't really go into any further.
First word,
With
4 letters.
Yeah.
Second word, 3 letters. We will move on.
No, it's the goal scoring, and it's being creative and having the skillful players that open the door, which makes the big difference with pace and quality, like we saw yesterday from Daniel James' right-footed cross and the technical finish from Rashford. That is the difference.
Well, perhaps they need another striker, but in fairness, our very own Guy Watts has informed me that Lys Mousset has got 1 league goal in 115 minutes. Clinical.
I know my IQ is fantastic. I took a test and the results came back negative.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not, but with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hi, I'm Barry. I'm a retired school bursar from Chingford. I thought I was paying too much for my energy and went onto a spokesmansaid.com and found that I could reduce my costs overall by £568 per annum, and I'm very grateful for that help.
With a spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money. Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated, and are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident, and save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
If you fall asleep at the wheel, you'll put your life in danger, and the lives of others as well. Before you feel tired, pull off the road into a services or other safe area. Drink some strong coffee, and take a quick nap while the caffeine kicks in.
If you're having a nap, you've left your lights on, sir.
Right, cheers.
Think. Don't drive tired.
Love Sport.
Our top story this afternoon is that ex-footballers who headed heavy leather balls are 3 times more likely to die of dementia and are also at increased risk of motor neuron disease and Alzheimer's in relation to those of us in the general population. It's a really, really troubling set of findings from this survey. And we're joined on the line now by Dr. Alison Evans, who is Head of Policy at Alzheimer's Research UK. Good evening, Dr. Evans. Thank you for your time. First of all, are you surprised by the nature of these findings?
Good evening. Well,
I think what this evidence really shows, it's the biggest study of its kind and does show there's a significant increase in the risk of dying in these ex-professional football players from dementia and other neurodegenerative diseases. But what we don't know is what lies behind that link, whether it's something on or off the field in those professional players that played at that time. So what's really important now is football associations, both in the UK and across the world, really take this as a first step in understanding these findings, and we need to see more research in terms of understanding what is it in terms of the experience of these players that led to that increased risk.
So are you suggesting it's not necessarily heading the football that is causing it?
So if you look at the evidence from this study, there isn't evidence to suggest that it is heading, whether it's something on or off the pitch. But obviously we need to understand, why is there this much higher risk of developing dementia and other neurodegenerative diseases in this particular group of ex-players? So that's what we really need to unpick and understand now. At the moment, we don't have evidence to know why they do have an increased risk.
Well, Dr. Evans, a lot of our listeners, and actually I am in this bracket as well, won't be quite certain what the distinction between dementia and Alzheimer's is and quite what we mean by motor neuron disease. Would you mind just quickly clarifying that distinction for us?
Yeah, of course. So dementia is a condition that can impact a number of people, can be caused by a number of diseases. Alzheimer's disease is the most common cause of dementia. So when we think about dementia, we think about people no longer be able to remember things. They might not remember people that their loved ones, family and friends, or have trouble sort of finding their way home from the shops, for example, and that can be caused by a number of different diseases. Motor neuron disease is a different neurodegenerative disease when there's problems with the individual neurons and loss there.
Absolutely. And in terms of how we can help people who do suffer from these problems, how are they treated, and how important is it to catch cases of them quickly?
So, unfortunately, at the moment, dementia is the leading cause of death in the UK, and we don't have any effective treatments that can really delay the onset, slow the progression, or ultimately cure the condition. That said, if people are concerned about family and friends in terms of they're noticing changes that they think they're worried about, obviously go and see your GP, go and see a healthcare professional and try and understand what might be causing it. It could be dementia, there could be another reason for that. The other benefit of being diagnosed is you can often take part in clinical research and help, with trials, so we can help find those new treatments, as well as, wider benefits of being able to plan for your future as well.
And in terms of further research into this, in your professional opinion, would it be sensible to commission a survey of people currently playing the game or who've been playing the game in the last couple of decades since the kind of footballs they use started to change?
So I think what's really important is we do need to understand why there is this increased risk, but we must also remember this study was in ex-professional football players of a certain time of an era, correct? But what we need to look is then looking at a prospective study going forwards, where we look at a whole range of things to try and unpick why there is this increased risk. And that's why our Director of Research is feeding into, from Alzheimer's Research UK, feeding into the FA and advising routes forwards on this.
Wow. Interesting study, and a lot of work's going to be done. Sadly, I was a footballer that's played from 1975 onwards with these different types of footballs to what's been studied over from 1900 to 1975. And I sort of obviously now concerned and thinking, wow, is that going to be me soon?
Naturally, and I think this study will raise a number of questions. It's our national sport, and of course we have to remember that sport, and football included, has numerous health benefits. So I think we have to sort of look at this study in that wider context of, yes, we are seeing this increased risk and we need to understand why, but without jumping ahead to further conclusions until we have that evidence-based.
Dr. Evans, great to talk to you. Thank you for your time. Dr. Alison Evans there, Head of Policy at Alzheimer's Research UK, clarifying a bit more about this shocking finding that former professional footballers are significantly more likely to develop neurodegenerative diseases than the rest of us. We've got some breaking news into the studio, which we knew Jadon Sancho was in a spot of bother. It's now been confirmed that he's been fined £86,000, dropped and made to jog laps in the rain at Borussia Dortmund. He's been training with the kids after he returned back from international duty late. Now, in the interest of fairness, Martin, I have to give him a rocket, because I spent the whole of last week having a pop at James Maddison for going to the casino after he'd withdrawn from that England squad. And I have to say, this is equally poor from Sancho. You've gone away with your country, you've furthered your profile, your career, doing it on the big stage. And what do you reckon? He just can't be bothered to go back to training in time, thinks he deserves a day off, gone back to see family. What's going on here?
Yeah, it's poor, isn't it, Johnny? It's poor. 86,000. What's that, a week's wages for him, do you reckon?
Half. Less than. He's on 190 grand a week.
No.
Yeah, at 19.
Blimey.
Do you think that's part of the problem?
Yeah, it could well be, Johnny, couldn't it? But he seems, from the interviews, that he seems to be a grounded, humble, decent lad. But he started off, I think, at Watford, didn't he? Then he went from Watford to Man City, then Man City, obviously, to Dortmund. It seems as though he's been in a rush to get to the top. And I was lucky enough to be at Man City the other day against Crystal Palace. And I saw on the bench a young lad called Phil Foden. He just warmed up. No dramas. Done it. He went on for the last 5 minutes. And I thought to myself, why didn't Jadon Sancho just wait and just build his career with one of the best managers, certainly the best coach I've ever seen working with that Man City team? Why didn't he just wait for his opportunity to join, probably, there's going to be over the next 10 years, one of the biggest clubs in the world football? What an opportunity he had to work with Pep Guardiola, and he's walked away from it.
I actually couldn't disagree more. I genuinely couldn't disagree more. I take your point absolutely about the chance to work with Pep being a brilliant one, but what he did was unbelievably brave. He made an opportunity for himself, in a sense.
Twice,
but he's gone to Dortmund.
Watford and then going up to Man City, and then leaving Man City to go over to Dortmund. When's his next going to come? When is his next move? Next year?
Why shouldn't he have another move? He is a player who has broken through, and fair play. You look at Phil Foden. Phil Foden, though, got 73 seconds on the pitch against Crystal Palace in a relatively comfortable win for City. Jadon Sancho starts every game for Borussia Dortmund.
Oh, he didn't. He got dropped last week.
Well, yeah, for bad behaviour. But when he's behaved...
he was tired.
Okay.
Didn't play very well, so they left him out.
When he's fit, he is the key man. He's got 3 goals already this season. He's got 5 assists. He has catapulted himself well ahead of time onto the global stage. His next move, as you say, will come in the next couple of years, and it will be to a Real Madrid or a Barcelona or a Bayern Munich or a Manchester City. He's going to get the chance to work under these elite coaches. He's just not hung around. And I think every bit of
and I
credit
don't think he's
possible
helped
to him.
himself. I don't think he's helped himself, not in his long-term career. No, I think he should have built himself and waited. He's gone after the money, gone after the chasing the opportunity.
I'm not sure he did go for the money.
You're kidding me, aren't you?
Well, he's got the money now, but when he's gone to Dortmund initially, he wasn't on 6 figures.
Can you imagine how much money he got? Oh my God! Compared from what he was earning at Watford, then go to Man City to see how much money he'd have made. You must be kidding me.
But he's gone to Dortmund, and also, I take your point about the money, but he's been given the number 7 shirt as an 18-year-old and thrown straight into the team. Surely that's a huge draw.
Yeah, huge draw, but long term for his career, I think Foden's approach to work with Man City and Pep Guardiola and the style and the way they play, I think that's a far better way to do it. And yes, the attraction would be there to go and earn all that XYZ, but medals and money, it will be coming to Foden. Whereas with Jadon Sancho, whatever his name is, it's like, well, you've left Watford to go to Man City. You left Man City because you weren't happy and gone to Dortmund. Hold on a minute. Is there a pattern that's coming here? Is there a pattern? I think it'd have been better off staying at Man City, working and learning. Foden now, I watched David Silva that little David Silva, what a player. Foden is going to go in and do what he does. He retires at the end of the season. He sat there on the bench doing the warm-up, watching how they play, going through all the drills, how to make that style of play work. And I'm sure all the Palace fans that were there, who sung their hearts out, by the way, right through to the very end, they'd have been watching Man City like I did, going, oh my God, what a fantastic team. And if you was any player would want to be playing for Man City.
Well, I know you're very, very taken by them as an outfit. You were there at Selhurst Park on Saturday. What's it like actually seeing them from 20 yards away?
Johnny, they were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant. And I'm sure if there's Palace fans out there that are listening, want to give me a call or give us a call here at Love Sport, it would be great to find out what the Palace fans thought about Man City on Saturday. I half expected Palace to beat them.
Really? Because they did last year?
Yeah, well, they didn't have no centre-backs playing.
True. Fernandinho and Rodri.
How are they going to do this? It didn't matter.
I thought Rodri was quite poor, by the way. Fell over a lot.
Really?
Yeah.
That's news to me. He fell over once in the second half. He slipped over. His recovery runs and how quick he is, how good he is in the air. What a team. What a team it was. If you were there at Palace watching that, let me know what you thought of them, because I thought it was a different brand of football to what we've been watching over all these years. And even clubs now that keep possession and move the ball around the pitch, it was far better than that, because every time they kept possession, it looked like they was going to go in and score. And I don't think anybody at Crystal Palace could disagree with me.
Well, if you're a Palace fan, get in touch. That number, 0208 7020 558. Give us a call, or you can WhatsApp as well. Lots more to come right here on Posh Boys on Drive.
This is Love Sport. Think the energy price cap will save you money? Think again. You could be saving a lot more on cheaper energy tariffs. Price comparison site A Spokesman Said will show you just how much money you could be saving against your current tariff. Don't throw away your hard-earned money to the energy companies. Check out aspokesmansaid.com and you could switch to cheaper bills in minutes.
Aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hi, I'm Dean. I work for a successful shipping company in Suffolk. Ever since I heard about people's success with aspokesmansaid.com, I knew I had to investigate for myself. Every time I need to compare car insurance, home insurance and energy bills, I always contact aspokesmansaid.com. This year alone, I saved over £260 on my car insurance and also £585 on my energy bills. I saved big through aspokesmansaid.com, and you could too.
With aspokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Exercise. It doesn't have to mean Lycra or a fancy gym membership. All you need is 10 minutes and you. Because a regular 10-minute brisk walk is a great way to get more active. Whether that's walking to the shops or getting off the bus to stop early. Picking up the pace and getting your heart pumping can make a real difference to your health. So, to see how much brisk walking you're doing and how you can fit more into your day, download the free Active 10 app, because there's only one you.
I love my brother. We do fun things like playing together. I like having hugs with Freddie. Freddie gives the best hugs. Freddie used to be very poorly, and the doctor said he might need a new liver. Then one day, a very nice person gave their liver to Freddie. It was amazing. We were so happy. Now he's around to give me more hugs than ever.
Tell your family you want to save lives. To find out more, visit organdonation.nhs.uk.
One thing I've learned is never judge a book by its movie. I'm joking, I never did.
Love Sport.
It's the Posh Boys. You've enjoyed that one, Martin. Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts and Mad Dog Martin Allen with you until 7. Guys, got all your latest headlines and weather. I
do indeed, Johnny. Yeah, the top story this afternoon, of course, is that news about the former footballers being at 3.5 times the risk of dying from dementia than the general population, according to new research. Doctors at Glasgow University were commissioned by the FA and the PFA to investigate fears that heading a ball could lead to brain injuries. The study compared medical records from over 7,500 ex-players to 23,000 other people, and those players were playing, by the way, between 1900 and 1976. The study has also found, though, that playing the game itself increases the average lifespan. A Manchester United fan was ejected from Old Trafford during Sunday's Premier League match against Liverpool over alleged racial abuse. The club say they're investigating the incident as a priority, and the police have also been informed. Liverpool released a statement saying they welcome the swiftness with which United launched the investigation. And by the way, the FA Cup fourth round match that had to be abandoned on Saturday between Haringey Borough and Yeovil, that's been rearranged for Tuesday, October the 29th, next Tuesday. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that in a moment. And Andy Murray's been included in Great Britain's squad for next month's revamped Davis Cup in Madrid. The former world number one claimed his first singles tennis title for 2 years after winning the European Open yesterday. He's joined in the Great Britain team by Dan Evans, Jamie Murray and Neil Skupski, with a fifth player yet to be confirmed. They're in the same group, of course, as the Netherlands and Kazakhstan. And weather-wise as well, overnight tonight, we're looking at the country being mostly dry with some clear periods, bit of mist and fog around as well, but some thicker cloud in Scotland and Northern Ireland. Tomorrow, though, a dry day, a little bit brighter as well, with sunny spells for many, a bit windier and rainier in Scotland and Northern Ireland, though highs of 15 degrees or so. That's the latest here on Love Sport Drive.
Thanks, Guy. A dry day makes a change. I keep walking out of my house optimistically, umbrella in the bag, get 10 yards, open the bag, umbrella out of the bag. It does my head in, Martin.
Dry day. So what are you talking about, the weather or alcohol?
Both. What do you think I've got in my bag?
Well,
it's an umbrella.
It could be 6 Stellas, couldn't it? You never know nowadays, do you? No, dry day, it sounds good. Bit of sunshine, love a bit of blue sky.
Would make a change.
Chilly. What's your favourite? Mine's chilly, blue sky, but a little bit cold, you know what I mean?
You know what? I used to think I preferred winter to summer. I have since realised that is categorically wrong. I like a warm day, but not too warm a day. I'm with you. The key word for me when it comes to weather is crisp. I want it clear. I want the air to feel very, very fresh. And as you say, on the cooler side, but nice and bright as well. Some rather darker news emerging this weekend as the Haringey Borough players walked off the pitch in their FA Cup fourth round qualifier against Yeovil Town amid allegations of racist abuse. Tom Loiseau, manager of Haringey Borough, joined Love Sport Breakfast this morning to talk about that abandoned game, and he explained why the match was stopped.
A couple of the players got very upset. I've looked into their eyes. I saw how upset they were and disorientated. And I told the referee I was taking the players off the pitch. I didn't think about what happened to England. I weren't thinking about anything. I just wanted to get my players off. Took them off, put them in the dressing room. Referee called me out. He said to me, "What are you thinking?" So I said to him, "I don't want to send my players back out there. Not while all that's going on." So I said, "What are you going to do about it?" I said, "Are you going to abandon the game?" He goes, "No, I'm not abandoning the game." He goes to me, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I don't want my players to go out there." He said, "How about your players?" I said, "I will go and ask them." I went next door into our dressing room. My captain stopped me in my tracks and said, "We're not going back out now." So I said, "Fair enough. Back you all the way." I think the chairman had a brief word as well. We went back and told the referee the players don't want to come out.
Tom Loiseau there, Haringey Borough manager, talking on Love Sport Breakfast this morning. Remember, you can catch Richard Lee and Patrick Christie's every weekday morning from 6:30. Police are now investigating the allegations of racist abuse, and 2 arrests have so far been made, both of them in Somerset. As Guy mentioned, the game has been rescheduled for next Tuesday, October the 29th, and the winner qualifies for the first round proper of the FA Cup. Listen, all allegations, all unconfirmed, but very troubling suggestions at the very least.
Yeah, but I think it's good news, Johnny.
In what sense?
I think it's about time a stand was made, and the fact that Tom, the Haringey manager, has backed his players and said, right, that's it, we're not playing on, and why should we? I think it's about time a club, a team, a manager made the stance and said, that's it, off. We're getting off. I'm pleased he's done it.
We saw statements of exactly that kind from Ian Wright after the Bulgaria game, saying, you know what, this is so awful, it's basically a good thing because it's highlighting the scale of the problem. Now, when we were talking about the shameful behaviour of those fans in Sofia, there was a little bit, and I include myself in this, of self-righteousness and a little bit of holier-than-thou about the whole thing. You know, we were going, those Bulgarian fans, terrible racists. And actually, inside a week, we've got allegations of, not as bad as that, but serious stuff in the English game. Is this perhaps also a wake-up call to us as lovers of the English game that we have to get our own house in order as well?
As well. Yeah, no, I don't think anyone can deny that. Some of the stuff that's happened, the one recently at Hartlepool was horrendous, where players climbed over the barrier behind the goal to fight and confront supporters of their own team. I mean, oh my God, how ridiculous.
It's absolutely staggering. I met Paul Canaville last Friday, who was, of course, the first black player to sign for Chelsea. He was on the Chelsea Fan Show. And he told a story about how when he played his first game for Chelsea, I can't remember who it was against, he heard a lot of boos and kind of racist chanting from the crowd, and he assumed it was the away fans. It was Chelsea fans. And this, we like to think that things have improved since Paul's day, and of course they have to an extent. But actually, I think we have a duty to ourselves and to the game more broadly, and certainly black and ethnic minority players within it, to not kind of rest on our laurels and go, well, it's got better, so it's fine. We clearly do have a minority of rotten apples, but enough to fill a punnet, perhaps.
Yeah, I think the fact that people can go on social media now and report it and point out to stewards and have emergency telephone numbers to highlight people within stadiums if they hear or see it. It's now being brought more to the fore because it's accessible to people to be picked out and chosen through social media, through cameras, through the stewards, through the stewarding. And now it's so much better. It's got to be. It's only the start now to actually seeing an end to it. You can see now there is an improvement.
You can indeed, and it was announced last week that over in Italy, in Serie A, they're going to start using VAR-style cameras to identify fans delivering racist abuse in the stands. They're going to be able to zoom in on their faces and retrospectively catch people.
It's about time, Johnny, isn't it?
Seriously good news if we can start tracking more of these people down. And talking of good news, enter stage right Andy Murray, called up for the Davis Cup squad the day after winning his first ATP Tour title after that comeback from serious hip surgery. We're joined on the line by Gigi Salmon, who's a tennis commentator. Good evening, Gigi. Thanks for joining us. Just how impressive was that performance?
Good evening, gentlemen. We have to say he's about to become a dad for the third time. So he hot-footed it back from Antwerp, where they're expecting the third baby Murray. It was everything's been impressive, if we're honest. I was in Melbourne at the start of the year where the Australian Open played a retirement video for him and sort of said, thanks for coming, great career, we're going to miss you. And at the time he said, well, I'm going to go through this hip surgery and see what I can do. When you think that in February of this year he was undergoing hip resurfacing surgery, he didn't think he'd be able to play at any level ever again. And here he is winning a title. Now, the title was a 250 title in Antwerp. So you've got the Grand Slam Masters, the 500 levels, then the tournament he was playing. It was only his 7th tournament back. He came back in the summer as doubles specialist and won the title at Queen's on the grass, but he was never satisfied with being a doubles player. He loves the singles court, but to have the movement, the confidence, the mentality to be winning this title, it's absolutely incredible. And he's back into the world's top 130. It's absolutely phenomenal what he's been through to what he is still achieving.
It is extraordinary, but Gigi, talk to me about that first retirement, because call me old-fashioned, I shouldn't be able to use the phrase first retirement, because you should only be allowed to retire once. I am of the opinion that Andy, however good this comeback is, has had his fanfare. Once you've had those video messages, it should now be compulsory that Murray's retirement is absolutely silent. He just stops playing.
Now we we have to say that he didn't want the retirement video. It was a surprise to everybody, including all of the commentators we were watching. And suddenly they said, we've got a little video, some messages from your friends and from your colleagues saying, what a career, goodbye. But I have to say, in all seriousness, when just before the tournament started, he held a press conference. He sat down, then he had to leave because he was crying, and he came back and he said, I'm in so much pain. I can't walk the dog. I can't put my socks on. I can't play with my children at the soft plays. We all dread going to soft play with children, but it's something he couldn't do. And he didn't have that movement. This is a sport he's dedicated his life to. And I think he genuinely believed that there would be no chance of him getting back to any kind of level. Maybe he'd get back on a tennis court, but was he seriously going to be able to compete with some of the best players in the world? The player he beat to win the title yesterday was Stan Wawrinka, who's won 3 Grand Slam titles and has had troubles of his own. But he probably genuinely thought that was it, that there was no way he was going to play to any level again. Even the hip surgeons are saying it's unbelievable what he's done. People are going to start going into the doctor saying, I want a Murray, because it's incredible. He said now that there is no pain for the hip. It's absolutely fine. I don't feel anything from it. The fact that he's back now, look, I think next year we'll see a little bit less of him. I think scheduling-wise, he's not going to play as much. Is he going to be number 1 in world again? Probably not. Is he going to win a Grand Slam? I don't want to say definitely not, but probably not. It's unbelievable. I don't even think he can believe how well he's playing, but he will have to rest now. He's playing the Davis Cup, as you touched on at the start, which is in the middle of November. Then he needs to rest, he needs to recover, because there's still a long way to go. It's just incredible that he's winning titles in his seventh tournament back.
Hey, Gigi, if he picks and chooses his tournaments carefully and quietly, can't you just visualise and see him playing at Wimbledon in the final and going to victory? You must be able to see that.
I like the way you said that quietly as well. If he goes about it quietly, as you were whispering that, could he? Yeah, look, he could. He could. I wouldn't put anything past Murray. The fact that 7 months ago he couldn't walk and he was in so much pain. He actually had to delay his flight back from Australia because he was in so much pain. And look, he doesn't travel at the back of the plane like most of us, and he still couldn't
Is he in
get
economy?
on the plane.
Is he going economy?
Would he be in economy? He's not in economy. But even though he's got a flat bed and probably the whole of the top half of the plane to himself, he still couldn't get on the plane because he was in so much pain. To think where he is now, yes, age isn't on his side because he's coming into his mid-30s. And as we know, things just get tougher as you get older. But the shape he's in, the joy he's feeling at playing, and he also said that he has to stay on the road because every time he has time off, another baby Murray is on the way.
I have the same problem. I have exactly the same problem. Gigi, lovely to speak to you. Thank you for your time. Gigi Salmon there, who is a tennis commentator.
She's got a great name, hasn't she?
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but
Gigi.
it's a world-class name.
It is, isn't it?
Properly good. I wish I was called Gigi Salmon. What do you make of Andy's suggestion that he needs to get back on the road because he's having too many children? I would politely suggest there are other solutions to tennis tours.
Yes, I think we're probably best swerving that one, Johnny.
Yeah.
I was wondering if I was just seeing him sitting in economy in one of those flights from Australia back to the UK, and as he gets on the plane, and the air hostess says, "Where's your seat, sir?" And he goes and sits in economy.
To be fair, I bet you whatever class he's in, he demands great service.
Giving your team the coverage they deserve. Love Sport Radio.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men.
Cage.
Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're in
Tenna men. Keep control.
You're in?
No.
If you're driving on a motorway and you see a red X sign overhead, you need to change lanes safely.
Driving in a red X lane is an offence. Red X's are there for a reason, to protect you and others from danger. The lane may be blocked by a broken down vehicle, or road workers, or the lane may be needed for the emergency services. So if you see a red X, change lanes safely. Highways England, connecting the country.
My mum and dad say that I don't need lots of sugar. I'm sweet enough already. So we used the Change for Life food scanner app to find out how much sugar is in our food and drink. It's surprising how much we found. So I put my detective hat on to find the healthier choices. Woohoo! Found one, Mum! You can be food smart too. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app today.
This is Love Sport.
It's 2 wins in a row for Stoke City. Now, that may sound like a fairly routine sentence about a side who are operating in the Championship, having been in the Premier League really, really recently. But actually, it's been a tough time for the Potters this year. After those 2 wins, they rise up to 23rd in the table with 8 points from 12 games played. But a really impressive 2-0 win over Fulham, following, of course, a 2-1 win over high-flying Swansea. The form is finally with Graham Potter's men. They're going away to Sheffield Wednesday tomorrow night. If they win there, they'll be the form side of the division. And this is with a manager in charge who was inches, centimetres from the sack a couple of weeks ago.
Minutes.
Does this show, Martin? Well, what does this show?
Well, it seemed with the relegation and the greyness over Stoke and their performances, they were a bit unlucky a couple of times, but then the pressure starts to build, and people like you, Johnny, come out and say, "Do you think he's under pressure?"
Well, he was under pressure.
Yeah. Well, you asked the question, but rightly so. Rightly so. We're not winning games, and everyone thought after an interview that he gave, where he was saying, how much commitment he gave to the club and blah, blah, blah. I know how hard he works, but all football managers work hard. I don't know any that's not 24/7, let's put it like that. So he came out, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He's done an excellent job down at Luton. He's done a very good job at Brighton as a coach with their under-23s. And now he sees himself at a big club at Stoke, and it doesn't automatically make him a bad manager. But results last season and this season have not been good. But since that a few weeks ago, he's turned it round. He's picked it up. When you thought the Stoke board would sack him, it did look that way. There's no doubt about that. And I didn't want to say it, but it looked like he was going to get the bullet. And now he's got that place going. And from there, I reckon outsider Stoke City to climb that table and just nick a playoff place, and it would not surprise me one little bit.
Well, that is quite a shout. And of course, if they do continue this good form and do rise up the table as you're suggesting, would that perhaps be an example to other football clubs to back the manager, as the old cliche goes? You may be struggling now, but if you know that you have a Nathan Jones, you have a top-class mind in charge, it's worth riding out a dodgy month or two.
So what are you saying, Johnny? Back or sack?
I'm saying back or sack, and I'm leaving crack out of it.
I think it's a message to all of them. You've just seen yesterday that performance from Manchester United with Wan-Bissaka back fit now, with Rojo coming into the back three and playing so well. McTominay has really taken to that role. Rashford's had a little break and scored for England and come back in. James has come in. Pereira's come in and done really well. He's left out Mata. He's left out Matic. He's left out all these big name players and put them on the outside. De Gea's got fit and looked fantastic yesterday. Stick by him. Give him another 2 transfer windows. Ride with it. You employed him, you back him. You don't just give them 1 transfer window. You've got to give them time. And with time, I think Solskjaer could do it.
Well, a big part, he talks about a 3-year plan, by the way, so that's the amount of time he's clearly asking for. A big part of their improved performance yesterday was Marcus Rashford. He's got 31 Premier League goals now, and 11 of them have come against Big Six opponents, of course scoring twice against Arsenal on his Premier League debut. Why is it that he seems to switch it on the big occasion?
How about... sorry, Mark, you go.
The reason that would happen, Johnny, is because when they're playing against better teams who have more of the ball, the opposition push up the pitch higher and Manchester United have to play deeper. And it's similar with England when he played away in Spain, where the Spanish were dominating possession, and then on the counter-attack, if you remember, that blistering goal that went into Harry Kane, went out to Sterling, and then it got crossed in, and I think it was either Sterling or
Rashford finished
it off. So when there's that space behind the back four, he is dangerous. Where he's not quite so good is where the opposition park the bus and play very deep and don't leave any space behind them. Then he finds it difficult to make those quick, intricate Man City type style of combinations around the box. He's not quite as good that style. But away from home against the best teams, that is where the space is for him to go into.
Well, the only really convincing performance and result United have had all season was that opening day victory against Chelsea, and that's exactly what happened. It was 4-0, but if memory serves me right, possession was very even, if not in Chelsea's favour. It wasn't a 4-0 thrashing. It was a 4-0, I don't know, smash and grab job in a good way. It was a well-conceived tactical plan.
I think they had 6 chances and scored 4 goals.
Exactly, and the performance yesterday, watching that way that Solskjaer deployed Dan James and Marcus Rashford as a sort of unconventional front two, made me think of a game about 2 years ago under Jose Mourinho at Chelsea, obviously for Man United, and he deployed Rashford and Lingard as a sort of strike pairing, and you looked at it before the game and you thought, crikey, this will go one of 2 ways. And it went the right way, it went the good way, and United won 2-0, and at the time that was a big result. I think, if memory serves me right, United had a lot of injuries at the time as well, which was partly why he went for that. But you're reminded that United, who for a long time in their recent history have been characterised by the ability to break fast. I saw something last week, what is your favourite Cristiano Ronaldo goal when he reached 700? For me, it's hard to beat the one against Arsenal in the Champions League where Park, Rooney and Ronaldo combine. They go end-to-end in about 9 seconds. And I just think if something sums up a latter-era Sir Alex Ferguson goal and team, I think it's that goal. And I think that those shoots, if you like, of optimism are still there for United fans, because when Dan James is in full flow, it created the goal against Arsenal, it created the goal yesterday. Marcus Rashford, he's not as lethal a finisher as he should be, but I think he's one of those players that plays on instinct, and when he has less time to think about everything, I think he's a better player. And Martial, he's fast, he's dangerous.
Is Martial good?
And he's a better finisher than Rashford. He is a very good finisher.
Very good technical player.
He doesn't have, I don't think, that off-the-ball work that Pep Guardiola, for example, loves so much. I don't think he'd be a good player for him, but I think he can be a very good one for United.
So it's interesting, Guy. Now this is coming together. Martial will go and play centre-forward probably.
Should do.
How far away is Luke Shaw, the left-back, from coming into that team? Because he can't be, hopefully he's not that far away. So all of a sudden, you can start to see a Manchester United team coming together.
And if he has consistent transfer targets who he knows he wants, which he's kind of intimated that he does, he's got this 3-year plan, and players such as Ben Chilwell, for example, at Leicester City are very much part of it. If he could kind of set out to Ed Woodward who he's signing when, what the plan is, who's going in where, it could actually be a real case of a Nathan Jones. Back the manager, give him time, keep the faith, and see where you end up.
This is Love Sport.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage. You're in leakage. You're in leakage, you're in leakage.
Henna men. Pants and pads.
You're
discreet. Masculine.
You're
secure absorption zone. Buy online or in shops.
You're
Tenna men. Keep control.
Urine?
No.
Driving too close to the car in front gives you less time to react. You may not realise that you're tailgating. Leave a 2-second gap between you and the vehicle in front. When it's wet, leave a 4-second gap. By staying back, you give yourself time to react. Stay safe. Stay back. Highways England, connecting the country.
How are you? How are you really? Modern life can be busy, and sometimes it's easier to look after others before looking after yourself. But there's only one you. And making small changes to your lifestyle now could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. So take the first step to a healthier you with our free How Are You quiz. See how you score and get personalised tips and support. From how to eat a little healthier to turning a 10-minute walk into exercise. Just search 1U.
Coming up on Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive, we're going to be talking to former Arsenal invincible Graham Stack, getting his thoughts ahead of the Gunners' crucial game against Sheffield United tonight. Of course, Graham Stack has also been captain of Barnet under a certain Mr. Martin Allen, so I might be finding out just what my esteemed co-host is like when he's your boss. We're also going to be talking rugby. We're going to talk more Manchester United and Jurgen Klopp as well. He's very, very charming when his team are winning. The teeth come out and he smiles and says, yes, very good. As soon as they lose, he gets a bit grumpy with the journalists. Maybe he's like the rest of us after all. First of all, news.
On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is Love Sport News.
From the Sky News Centre at 6, the Prime Minister has suffered yet another setback in his attempt to get his Brexit deal approved by Parliament. The Speaker of the House, John Burrow, refused to allow a vote on Boris Johnson's agreement. He says it would have been repetitive and disorderly to do so because the substance of the motion was effectively the same as a vote on Saturday. Conservative MP and Brexiteer Sir Bernard Jenkins accused the Speaker of bias.
I note the dilemmas you face mean that on occasion you will sometimes have to please some and not others, but it is becoming remarkable how often you please one lot and not the other lot.
Police say 2 teenage best friends who were stabbed to death at a party in Milton Keynes at the weekend were killed by a masked man who turned up uninvited. No one's been arrested, but detectives think the attackers knew their victims. Our reporter Becky Johnson says police have issued a clear message.
They are telling the perpetrators that effectively they are coming to get them. They are urging those responsible to hand themselves in. They are also warning anybody who might be helping them to evade arrest that they are committing a criminal offence and could potentially be prosecuted.
5 men have been arrested after 13 suspected migrants were found in the back of a cattle truck. They were in a lorry carrying livestock in Calais on Saturday. 3 people have been taken to hospital after a plane from London to Philadelphia had to be diverted because of spilt cleaning fluid. The aircraft landed safely in Dublin. 4 of America's biggest drug companies have settled a case over the supply of deadly opioids hours before a trial was scheduled. They'll pay £200 million to authorities in Ohio over claims they supplied the addictive painkillers despite suspecting they were being misused. All the companies deny wrongdoing. And in tennis, Andy Murray has been included in Great Britain's squad for next month's Davis Cup. Yesterday, he won his first singles title for 2 years after claiming the European Open. That's the latest. I'm Will Rowe.
Love Sport Radio. On digital radio, online, mobile and smart speaker. This is the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive.
Good evening. You're listening to the Posh Boys on Love Sport Drive. You're with me, Johnny Burrow, Guy Watts, and Love Sport's very own Martin Allen. Your top stories this evening. A study has found that ex-footballers are more than 3 times more likely to die of dementia than people of the same age in the general population. Andy Murray has been selected for Great Britain's Davis Cup team the day after he won his first singles title after career-saving hip surgery. And England have a fully fit squad to choose from for their World Cup semi-final against New Zealand next Saturday. This is Love Sport Drive, and our biggest story of all, of course, is the staggering results from this survey about Alzheimer's, about other neurodegenerative diseases as well, and their potential connection to heading a football. We had it pointed out to us earlier that there isn't explicit evidence in this study linking the likelihood of developing the conditions to actual heading of the ball, but it does seem that that is the specific head-related thing, if you like, that footballers do that no one else does, Martin.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's we've been waiting a long time for this research and the tests and the results, and to come through with such I wouldn't say damning figures, but shocking, staggering figures for footballers from those years up to 1975 when they were using those footballs. But now the thing that's been on my mind all afternoon, Johnny, since you showed me these findings, is what effect has heading footballs had since 1975 and the change of the footballs. What effects has heading the ball had on footballers since then? And of course, I would have to try and put myself into that bracket. And you're sort of sitting around here this afternoon thinking, I wonder if that's me. And what effect heading a ball from 7-8 years old, 3 games a week, all the way through to 34, what effect it has had on me, which is probably why I'm a bit mad.
We have seen moves in the last couple of years to ban heading of a football for certain age groups, normally under 9s. Is that something you think is a good idea?
Yes, I think it is. I do actually think it is. Johnny, if you'd have said that to me a few years ago, I'd have said, you mad? You're the mad one, Johnny, not me, mate. You're mad. What, no heading of the football? You must be kidding. But on Saturday, I went to watch Man City play at Crystal Palace, and all they do was pass the ball around. They don't kick it up in the sky or put it up the channels or at big diagonals. They pass the football on the grass to each other. So who's to say, in time, with these staggering results we've seen today, that you might not really see much heading of the ball, because the way football's going to go and the way Pep Guardiola organised that team that I watched from just behind the dugouts, it was quite remarkable. Quick, incisive passing on the grass, attacking play was brilliant, and I loved it. So maybe in the future that is how all football's going to go.
Stylistic and medical reasons for keeping the ball on the ground. There's a big game in the Premier League tonight. Arsenal can go third if they beat Sheffield United at Bramall Lane. We're joined on the line by Graham Stack, former Arsenal keeper. Good evening, Graham. Thank you for joining us. Can Arsenal do it?
Yeah, of course they can. Listen, they're on a run of great form at the minute. Free scoring, they've got some quality players, especially one in Aubameyang who looks like he can score at will at the moment. And as I say, I mean, they're in great form. It's not going to be an easy game. Sheffield United are very well organised. Chris Wilder's got them playing in a certain way, and they're hard to beat. I think they've probably struggled at home more of late, which has surprised me really, because I thought that'd be really where they would be strong. They've probably been slightly better on their travels, but that won't be an easy game by any means. But I think with Arsenal's team and the squad they've got in place, and potentially 1 or 2 to come back in the side this evening, maybe Tierney and maybe Lacazette, I think they'll be strong, I've got to say.
Hey, Stacky, you was a member of that Invincible squad, weren't you, a few years ago?
Oh, thanks for bringing it up, Mark. I just happened as I was.
You were, weren't you?
I was.
What was it like to be involved with that? Tell us all about that.
Oh, well, I get asked the question quite a bit, to be fair. And it's, you know what, at the time, I took it for granted, but you look back in the team and the individuals that I was surrounded by and getting trained with and travelling with the Champions League games for the best part of 2 years, and you look at where sort of the Arsenal team is now to this day, and I don't think, well, I'd be very, very surprised if they managed to get a team of individuals and a collective group as good as what we had back then. But no, I was surrounded by big personalities and great professionals and real winners and leaders. I mean, the balance that we had at the time with foreign players and English players, and also a balance of young and older players, more senior, experienced players. I think with the manager had in charge in terms of us, and I just think the mix was always going to happen at some stage. And unfortunately for me, I was a big part of that. So yeah, it was a real special couple of years. Certainly the year we went on to win the title and stayed unbeaten. That was something I'd always look back on with fond memories, and real proud and fortunate that was part of that. It's great.
Was that winning the Premier League the highlight of your career, or winning the conference with Barnet your highlight of your career, Stacky?
Do you know what I've got to say? There's another one I get asked. Being part of that Barnet team when we, obviously when we won the league that year, and being an integral part of it, being sort of one of the senior members in that group, and also being on the coaching staff, to have gone and won the National League, I felt big responsibility on my shoulders as a teammate and obviously as a member of staff. And I think knowing what went on behind the scenes, obviously with me and yourself, and trying to plan and prepare and go to these tough grounds midweek when sort of the budget's probably nowhere near as what obviously we had when I was at Arsenal, and the players that you're working with. I learned a lot, not just from from as a player, but obviously working with yourself and how to prepare individuals and get a team in place, and maybe not play great football or eye-catching football at times, but just finding a way to win games. You're going away to Halifax on a Tuesday night, and I always remember you saying to me, this is the type of night we're going to have to change the way we play. It's not going to be about playing the ball at the back. It's going to be about using Big John Akinde and getting the ball in behind, and and turning them early and stuff like that. So that was a real eye-opener for me at the time. And it's not until you look back, and I've moved on with my coaching career, that there are valuable lessons I learned. Obviously working with yourself and having huge success, but winning that league will always be real special to me, because obviously I played so many games, and I was quite influential in going on and winning a title. But very different memories for different reasons, but both things that I'll never forget.
Graham, as you mentioned there, Martin Allen was your gaffer at Barnet. Just for me, as someone who works with him now day in, day out in a different context, could you enlighten both me and the listeners as to what it's like having the wonderful, charming Martin Allen as your boss?
Yeah, quite easily. Well, he's a workaholic for starters. He's got OCD and he's got high standards. And if you don't adhere to him or you don't meet him, then you will fall short and you probably won't last too long.
I found that out.
He's desperate to win. He's desperate to be successful, and I really enjoyed working with him. And I don't think, I've got to say, there's not many players that I've played with in the past that have sort of been part of Martin Allen's teams, and he's had some good ones in the past. He's had some great players that have got on to top careers, but he finds a way of, as I say, getting the best out of people. He's a real people man. He's very honest, and he's a good listener, and he'll talk to you, and he'll have that relationship with you on a professional level. But certainly in my time with mine, if there was anything I needed, away from football or other players needed, he'd be the first one to pick the phone up. And he always built good relationships with people, and I thought that was remarkable. I thought that was really interesting, and something again I've always looked back on very fondly. So he's the story that I know, everyone goes, he's mad, he's a lunatic. I said, there is a bit of the science behind it. Martin's just not a lunatic. He's a football man. He knows exactly what he wants to get out of teams, and he knows how to do it. So, listen, Martin's had a successful managerial career, and now he's on the radio, and he seems to be. He's lively though. Don't upset him, for Christ's sake.
No, I've actually learned that one as well, Graham. I think one thing Martin certainly wouldn't stand for is a Mesut Özil style character in his team, a talented player who frankly can't be bothered, doesn't want to run, doesn't want to work for his colleagues. For you yourself as a leader on the pitch, how would you have handled Mesut Özil as a teammate?
Yeah, well, I think that's another good thing. I think Martin tends to get players in his group that buy into what he's after, and I don't think Martin would probably have to speak to Mesut. I think it would be done by players like myself and individuals around me, and sort of key players within that group that would, we'd address it ourselves. And Martin probably wouldn't have had to say too much. But listen, there are types. Listen, you can't all be workhorses. There has to be one or two show ponies in there somewhere. But at the same time, they have to be prepared to run back and track runners and block shots and make tackles and do that part of the game. And if they're not, then that has to be addressed, because it's all right getting everyone else to run man and do the dirty work for them, but the 1 week that they turn up and they don't perform, there's going to be serious question marks. And I think that's got to be a given, as any player should be. As soon as they put that shirt on and they're representing a football club, they should respectfully run round and do the hard graft as well as the niceties as well.
Stacky, I'm going to share with yourself and Johnny and the listeners something that we set up at Barnet just after we started pre-season training. We had a staff meeting, which Graham was the goalkeeper coach and the goalkeeper, and he was kind of my assistant to help with different matters. And it got brought up about what we were going to do with discipline, which we spoke about the other week, Johnny. Like if people haven't got their flip-flops on or they're late for training, they wear the wrong kit, and all those little bits and pieces that, you know, it goes around publicly that all these things tick off. And Stacky said to me, he said, what we're going to do about that form, because this is what we had last year, and there was a rule sheet of about 30 different things over 3 pages that the players had to adhere to. And he showed me it, and I read it through, and I said, yeah, that's great. And I ripped it up into about 30 pieces. And he said, well, what are you doing? What's happening? I said, we ain't going to have no rule book. We ain't going to have no rule sheet. You look after it. Yeah, and he kind of looked at me quizzically across the room and said, what do you mean by that? I said, Stacky, if anyone does anything wrong, you deal with it and don't tell me.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
It sounds
and
terrifying.
I tell you what, if anyone came in late for training, it was the last time they was ever late for training. If everyone was disrespectful to staff, to other players or people in hotels or at the canteen, Stacky would say, oi, you. Don't you dare talk to them like that. Don't you dare do that. That is not the way we do things. And he sorted out that dressing room to make all those players in that squad champions.
If I'm honest, I'm scared just hearing about this. And when we're talking, Graham, about Graham Stack, the disciplinarian, I was doing my research earlier and I discovered that in one of your loan moves from Arsenal to Beverham in Belgium, you found yourself in quite a hairy situation where there was a pitch invasion, and I've just watched it on YouTube. It's quite something. A couple of lads run towards you. The first one you're engaged in respectful conversation with. The second one comes flying in and has a pop at you, and you politely explain with your right fist that might not have been the best course of action. I was thinking about this with reference to the Jack Grealish incident last year.
Yeah, that's right.
Obviously, as a player, when you are addressed, shall we say, by a pitch invader, that is quite frightening. Should players be able to defend themselves on the pitch if needs be?
Do you know what? I think it's all about the character and the type of person you are. You know, looking back at it, I'm one of them people. I've sort of been brought up around principles and morals and stuff like that, and I just felt the timing of it all, being it was a derby at the time, so emotions were running high, but at no given stage did it cross my mind that I was going to walk off. It's something I just felt like I needed to deal with at the time, and I suppose it was a bit of a reaction, but it was a natural one, just to sort of defend myself in fairness, and eventually sort of one of them ended up on the deck, and I ended up being a bit of a cult hero for the next season. But
I can imagine that.
It's a frightening experience, and a player shouldn't have to go through that. They shouldn't have to make that decision. But I was put in a position, and I had to make one. And you know what I ended up doing was something I'd probably look back on and never change.
And Graham, where are you now? What are you doing now? How are you feeling with your time after you've finished your career with Eastleigh?
I've been pretty busy since I've left Eastleigh. I was offered a job at Watford to be head of academy goalkeeping. So I look after the 23s goalkeepers down to sort of the 18s, and then I oversee everyone down to the 9s. So I've got 2 part-time goalkeeper staff that I work alongside. So I'm busy with that. That's full-time. We've just literally got back from Coventry today, and the 23s game we drew 1-1. So I'm really enjoying it. I'm loving the coaching side of it. I've got a football academy that I set up nearly 4 years ago that I run locally for kids, not elite kids, but just for children that just sort of love football and probably don't get included or participate much at school or Sunday league levels. So it just sort of gives these kids a chance to get involved and feel a little bit special. So I've been doing that, and I recently just finished my degree. I got a first in professional sports writing and broadcasting as well. So
say that again.
I got a first. I'd done a degree, honours in professional sports writing and broadcasting.
Did you? You didn't tell me you was doing that.
Yes, I started that. It took me about 2.5 years to get that. So that was a distance learning degree that I started off at Staff's Uni. So on the side of the coaching and stuff like that, decided to take on something else really, just to use my time up slightly better than what I was. And I do after school coaching as well at a couple of schools near me. So, and I've got 4 kids and 2 dogs and a missus that drives me mad.
You sound like a busy
Anna, what?
man.
A missus that drives you mad?
Because I'm never in the house.
We were going to cut that out, Martin, in case she's listening. Graham, it sounds... Sorry.
I'm never in the house. She's always moaning because I'm never in the house. But I'm out working, so...
Do you know what, Johnny?
That's why.
I've never, ever met a player that works as hard as he does. On everything he does, he puts everything into it, and it's no surprise at all. He's won a Premier League medal with Arsenal, with the Invincibles. You won a championship medal, Stacky, didn't you, with Reading to get promoted to the to the Premier League, and Wolves, and he's won with Barnet. It's no surprise, no shock that his work ethic has taken him to where he is.
Well, Graham,
that's probably my biggest quality, to be fair. I'd say I had some ability, but not as much as some of the players I've played with in the past. I think the thing that separated me between me and the others was probably my work ethic, to be fair. So I'll always keep that with me, I suppose. It bring me success in the past. I'm sure it'll bring me success again.
Top man. Well, congratulations on the first, and great to chat to you as well. Graham Stack there, former Arsenal and Barnet goalkeeper.
On a Monday morning, you could come in, see him on a Monday morning, say, "What'd you do yesterday?" He said, "Built a patio." What? Built a patio. Done a patio out the back. Done a patio. Oh, how do you know how to do a patio? He said, "I just learnt from my dad and all his mates and that. They're all doing that." And next week, Monday morning, come in. "What'd you do yesterday?" "I built a brick wall." What? Built a brick wall. And he can do anything. And if his mate was moving house, he'd get the lorry and help his mate load the house. He would do anything to help anybody. He's just that kind of guy. He's 24/7, all action. And without him, we would never, ever have won that league.
Well, I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be rude to a dinner lady with you two in the building.
Love sport. You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not. But with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hi, my name's Bob. I'm a retired civil servant from Durham. I used the advice that a spokesman said gave me to haggle with Sky to reduce my monthly payments from £86 per month to £43 per month, which was a saving of £774 over the 18-month contract. A nice little result, if I say so myself, but it was only due to a spokesman said on his brilliant advice that I was able to do a deal for the new contract.
With a spokesmansaid.com, fighting for you, saving you money.
You probably think you're pretty good at multitasking behind the wheel. I mean, you have to multitask to drive. So what's wrong with checking your phone? The thing is, your brain simply doesn't work. Even a quick look at a message, or firing off a quick reply, affects your concentration and makes you less able to react to hazards. If you use a mobile phone while driving, you're 4 times more likely to crash. Think. Put your phone away.
Before you set off on a long journey, remember to check your vehicle. Are your tyres correctly inflated? And are the treads deep enough? Have you got enough fuel? Is your oil level right? Checking your vehicle doesn't take long, but can prevent a breakdown or accident. And save you money. So, before you set off on a long journey, check your tyres, fuel, and oil. Highways England, connecting the country.
I've heard that England does not have a kidney bank, but it does have a Liverpool.
This is Love Sport.
Red mist is an underused phrase, frankly, but we have had good cause to employ it recently after that ridiculous red card for French international rugby player Sébastien Verhaemena. A ridiculous elbow, Martin, to throw in a context where your team needs you. Your team needs you, firstly, to perform, but failing that, just to be a body on the pitch, being sent off in a World Cup quarter-final. You've let your entire team down.
And the nation.
And the nation.
And his family. Can you imagine what he's facing up to now when he returns to France? His teammates in the dressing room, they must have felt... Because it's key, isn't it, at that level,
David
discipline.
Beckham, 1998. People were burning effigies, burning a shirt in the street. And I don't know if they'll do that in France. I don't know what the sort of rugby supporting faction is like, but they'll be furious. And rightly so. I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because the guy, by the way, is retired from international rugby today. And he said in his statement he insists that he was going to anyway. He's only 28, only turned 28 this week. He says, though, that the people in charge, the coach and the head of the federation, everything, knew about that decision a few months ago. So they, I imagine, will be able to verify it or deny it in the next couple of days. But he's retired from international rugby. That was the last thing he ever did, playing for France, playing rugby for France. And that, I assume, is all he ever wanted to do when he was growing up as a kid. That's the last thing he'll ever do. And it is difficult because today he will be feeling as low as it's possible to be, surely. And yet... So you don't want to add to his, pain, if you like. But at the same time, you can't not criticise him for that. Or can you, Mike? Can you make a case for him being out there in the middle, whether it's rugby, football or any other sport, to just lose that control?
No, well, I think what you spoke about earlier is calmness under pressure. And at that level, or all levels of rugby, we see them all just piling into each other and just sort of smashing each other. But there's skill and technique, isn't there, about all those situations where they're piling over for the ball. You can't go ahead of the ball because it's going to be offside. You're going to give away penalties. And so their discipline of when to go in, when to grab the ball, when to let it go, it's absolutely key that you don't let yourself sink to that level which he did. And his manager, his coach must be absolutely furious with him. And you mentioned earlier about that guy in the England team who scored the try. He's a bit of a loose cannon, isn't he? He does crazy things and gets offside and does the wrong things in certain situations. At the weekend, he was superb, wasn't he?
He was superb. We were saying who's going to be man of the match, and the two names we came up with were Tom Curry and Carl Sinclair, and I think it could have gone either way. Tom Curry got the award in the end. He was brilliant as well. These, by the way, young guys. Tom Curry's 21 years old. Sam Underhill, 23. He was brilliant. More tackles in a World Cup match for England than any other player ever. 20 tackles. Whoa. Quite incredible, and for a guy who has not played that much international rugby.
But when we're talking about these people who have the potential to lose it on the pitch, have potential to be explosive in the wrong kind of way, that fieriness is sometimes part of what makes them so effective. We need to find a way of walking that line between not losing the competitive spirit, exactly, not losing the fire. Zinedine Zidane's headbutt and resulting red card on Marco Materazzi in the 2006 World Cup final is shocking. It lets his team down and it lets his country down. But I am also convinced that despite all of the abuse he was getting off Materazzi, that's a byproduct of the kind of bloke he is, the kind of winner he is, and the kind of footballer he is. You need that passion, that aggression.
Luis Suarez maybe as well.
Exactly, that slight little edge of insanity.
David Beckham's one against Simeone in the World Cup. David Beckham's where he kicked up at Simeone in the World Cup.
Wasn't the same league of violence, though, was it? As a headbutt or an elbow or Suarez, in his case, biting.
Yeah, but it's a straight red, that, isn't it? Kicking up off the floor. You can't do that. And that also was a massive letdown.
Can you train people, Martin? Do you think, have you used psychologists either as a coach or when you're a player? Did they get you people to say to you or anyone else? Because I know that's been a big thing for Eddie Jones, and he's been criticised actually for using too many. I think he's had 4 or 5 come into the camp in his time in charge rather than just 1 or 2 doing longer stints. And some people say that doesn't make much sense. But you look at Carl Sinclair not responding to the Aussie hooker tapping his head in the 5th minute or whenever he had a free kick given against him. You're thinking, this could be worrying. We were all saying, God.
He laughed at him, didn't he?
He sort of laughed. He just shrugged it off. And then he had the last laugh, obviously, later on when he scored that try. Brilliant photo of him celebrating that try. And you think, well, okay, there's lots of things that go into that. But is it just yourself that has to do that? Is it just you that can do that, or can someone else help you do that?
I think people can help. You can help as a coach and a manager. And we've just had Graham Stack on, who I worked with at Barnet there for a couple of years, and he has got a temper. He can flash a temper. But what we worked on with him, and we used to chat to him about it one-to-one. It wasn't, wasn't in front of everybody else. It was about when difficult moments were going to come along. We worked out that we would face those together, so that if somebody shouted at something at him, he would ignore it, just let it go past him and concentrate on performance, and not let anybody else affect his performance for us to win a championship. Total focus on being successful, and what anybody else said, it was going to be irrelevant. And everyone knows he has a temper. They'd seen that YouTube video that Johnny was talking about, so they tried to antagonise him, but he never let himself go. He never did. He was brilliant. He worked very, very hard on that.
And Sinclair plays like that again in the next couple of games, and if all the other players match that level of performance, I really think we can go all the way. And I thought Stuart Barnes made an interesting point in the papers today in the Times. He picked out on Henry Slade. He gave away, I don't know if you remember, he gave away a penalty in the first half, probably 20 minutes or so in Australia. We're piling the pressure on after we'd taken that 14-3 lead, and it was as cynical offside as you will ever see, but it was completely deliberate, and it was to basically mean that we conceded a penalty and not a try. You could argue there was a small risk he'd get a yellow card, but early in the game, first defence, probably unlikely. And he said that is the kind of thing that New Zealand do so well, do better than anyone else. We know about the dark arts. We know that people think they get away with so much more, particularly at the breakdown, and maybe they do. But the point is you have to do these things well. John Terry and Nemanja Vidic, they did so many fouls probably that never got pinged, pulling the shirt at the right moment.
Terry's little elbow in the
little
small
elbow
of the
in the
back
back,
every time.
Although the one against Sanchez, of course, got spotted in that semi-final, though they just about got through. But those little things make a difference, and I feel like with Eddie Jones's team, as you'd expect from a team managed by him, with that mischievous grin he's got, they've got that right blend of sort of dark arts, but also the good kind of magic as well. And I think we saw a little bit of that. Slade's chip through for Johnny May. How brilliant was that? And Carl Sinclair's try as well. Absolutely brilliant. I think it's coming together. I think we've got probably, I saw Ben Kay say 60-40. I think in favour of New Zealand. I think that's about right. I think we've got a real chance in this semi-final at the weekend.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. 100%. 100%.
What about you, Johnny?
We've got
what
a
about Johnny
40%
Negative?
chance.
Works every time.
I think we 100% of the time have a 45% chance of doing the business.
Yeah, we're data analysts.
I think it's going to be give or take 50-50.
Where are you watching it?
I am watching it in the pub with my mates in Vauxhall. We got it all planned out. We booked a 7-a-side pitch for afterwards. So win or lose, we can we can go and
you're gonna lose.
I will then lose something immediately afterwards. But release the frustrations or celebrate the joy.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds good. What about you, Guy?
Good plan. I've got football Saturday morning, so we'll be recording it, piling back to our flat after the game, doing a screening of it.
You're going to try and not find out.
Oh, definitely. We're playing a team of mostly Spanish and South American. If you do that, I will literally not come to work anymore. So that might make you do it more. I don't know, but no, I would be so unhappy. I'll be texting everyone I know who likes rugby saying,
"You are going to see it though." There's going to be.
won't.
My granddad always does this. He records match of the day and then intends to watch it like the following Thursday. And then you mention one score. He's like, "I cannot believe you've ruined match of the day for me." You will find out. Someone in that game will hear.
Because everyone will be under strict instruction not to mention anything about it on our team. The team we're playing are mostly South American and Spanish, and I figure based on the fact that their teams traditionally are that strong, they won't be that interested in rugby, so no one will be shouting out across the pitch to their teammates.
So you are not watching the semi-final of the World Cup for a game
He's the
of
manager.
five-a-side.
He can't miss.
It's not 5-a-side,
Martin.
Full 11. What
What
time's
is it?
the
It's the
kick-off?
Save Swans.
Escaped Swans.
Escaped Swans.
10:30 kick-off, so we're done by 12, quarter past. Pile back to ours, have to try and have minimal interaction with anyone else. Get in a taxi, get the bloke to turn the radio off, full blinkers on. It'll work.
The taxi driver's going to spoil it.
won't.
Can I just ask, Escape Swans FC, is that a Hot Fuzz reference?
It is indeed, yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Not that many people get it, but we get asked a lot if we're from Swansea. We're obviously not. But
It's just the one reference, actually.
very good, Johnny. I'm liking
Can't
you more
you
already.
get the kick-off put back an hour?
I don't think the league would do that. I don't think they would. No.
Well, when
we've
cricket
cancelled
team,
the World Cup final
cricket
weekend.
team in the summer had a game, little village cricket, cricket booked for 1 o'clock on the afternoon of the World Cup final. There's no way I'm playing in that. England are playing in the World Cup final. This is a semi-final.
Yeah, I'm aware.
Are you not going to watch England play in the semi-final?
If I was like, I can't, I'm watching the rugby, everyone else who likes rugby, which is most of the team, is going to be like, well, I want to watch it too. We wouldn't have a team.
Correct. But this is World Cup.
3 points.
We've asked for there to be no game. We've got no game on the weekend of the World Cup final. But you couldn't have every Saturday off during the World Cup. We'd miss like 6 games. Martin, this will work. I've done this before. It will work.
Because I'm texting you non-stop.
What I'm going to do...
Blocked you already, mate.
I'm going to text you 5 or 6 dummy results. just really mess with them. Ooh, is it 13-12? Oh no, there's been a red card for Carl Sinclair. Guy Watts has left the building.
Love sport. Have you had enough of extortionate energy bills? A spokesman said could help you find the cheapest energy deals on the market. Don't take our word for it. There's hundreds of spokesman said customers who've saved big. Brian from Derbyshire saved £400 on his energy bills, and Tony from Northampton saved a massive £2,800 on his gas and electric. at spokesmansaid.com, the leading price comparison site where you can switch to the cheapest energy tariffs on the market in just minutes.
Spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Digital radio offers great sound quality and more stations than ever before. And we want to make sure that you get Love Sport on your digital radio. Just press the auto tune or auto scan button and Love Sport will appear on your menu. Love Sport on digital radio.
Every day someone dies waiting for a transplant. From spring 2020, the law around organ donation in England is changing to allow more people to pass on more organs to save more lives. Unless you choose to opt out or in an excluded group, all adults will be considered as a possible organ donor when they die. Whatever your choice, make it clear to your family and closest friends to ensure your decision is honoured. To find out more, or for the choice to opt out, visit organdonation.nhs.uk. Pass it on.
Hello, I'm Tim from Bolsover. I'm a retired teacher. I was looking for a better electricity deal from my parents when I got an email from a spokesman said it was a fixed deal for 2 years, which was better for my parents, less for them to worry about. And when I had a look at the sums, I had to recheck because I couldn't quite believe it. They were going to save over £900 each year they were on that deal. Needless to say, we signed up pretty quickly.
With spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Making small changes to your lifestyle could improve your chances of staying healthier longer. Start now by taking our free How Are You quiz. Just search 1U.
If you see somebody showing any of the signs of a stroke, you don't have to think about it, you just dial 999. Use the FAST test. F. Face. Has their face fallen on one side? Can they smile? A. Arms. Can they raise both arms and keep them there? S. Speech. Is their speech slurred? T. Time. Time to call 999 if you see any one of these signs. Act fast, make the call, dial 999.
This is Love Sport.
Well, Martin Allen has just told quite a story. Quite a story. It won't be repeated. Guy Watts has an update for us, and it relates to VAR.
Yeah, Johnny, we'll hear from Keith Hackett in just a moment. But just firstly, yeah, sports headlines this evening. Former footballers are 3.5 times more likely to die from dementia than the general population. That's according to new research from doctors at Glasgow University. They were commissioned by the FA and the PFA, the Professional Footballers Association, to investigate fears that heading a ball could lead to brain injuries. The study compared medical records from over 7,500 ex-players to 23,000 other people in the general population. A Manchester United fan was ejected from Old Trafford during Sunday's Premier League match against Liverpool over alleged racial abuse. The club say they're investigating the incident as a priority, and the police have also been informed. Liverpool have released a statement saying they welcome the swiftness with which United launched the investigation. And the FA Cup fourth round qualifying match between Haringey Borough and Yeovil Town, that's going to be replayed next Tuesday, October the 29th. Of course, that was called off, that was abandoned on Saturday over allegations of racist abuse from some of the Yeovil fans. Police are investigating and arrests have been made. And Andy Murray's been included in Great Britain's squad for next month's revamped Davis Cup in Madrid. Former world number one claimed his first singles title for 2 years after winning the European Open yesterday. He's joined in the team by Dan Evans, Jamie Murray and Neil Scupsey, with a fifth player yet to be confirmed. And now, as promised, we can hear from the former Premier League referee Keith Hackett. He joined Love Sport Breakfast this morning with Richard Lee and Patrick Christie's, of course. An action-packed weekend, an incident-packed weekend in the Premier League. Loads of VAR talking points. It's fair to say Keith was not particularly happy with how it was used. Here's 3 minutes or so of him talking about how he felt. They got it wrong this weekend in the Premier League. We'll discuss it afterwards.
Well, I thought it was an absolute disaster for VAR. And the boss of the PGMOL really needs to sit down with his referees, the VARs, and probably include managers and some player representatives to get this whole mess put right. We're making an absolute pig's ear of how to use and operate VAR. There was sufficient evidence to highlight the fact that everywhere else around the world where technology is used under the VAR criteria, the pitch side monitor is used. I've been saying for months now that this is part of the equipment and part of the process. The referee, in law, is the sole decision maker, and he listens to advice from his colleagues and accepts it or rejects it. But ultimately, he is responsible, or she in the case of other leagues. Now, in simple terms, by not looking at the VAR, the referee has been put in the mire. If we look at the Spurs-Watford game, right, Dele Alli's goal was allowed to stand, even though it had accidentally struck the upper arm of Dele Alli. The new law, which is an ass in itself, states that where an accidental handball takes place by a forward and he gains an advantage, that goal is ruled out. So they've got that one wrong on a review. Then we've got a penalty kick. First of all, I'm questioning why isn't the penalty awarded by the match referee? Because it's such an obvious foul. They go to VAR, and the VAR and the referee decide, or the man in the room at Stockley Park decides it's not a foul. So no penalty kick to Watford. I thought the Watford manager in his interviews that I've seen was quite gracious, really, shaking his head in disbelief because these were terrible decisions against Watford. So that's a team that suffered. In the Leicester-Burnley game, we had a situation where Chris Woods runs through, Johnny Evans is in front of him. There's no doubt that the legs came into contact, but it was accidental. It wasn't a foul. And therefore, Burnley, incorrectly, on VAR, had a goal ruled out. So that's two to begin with. We go to Palace Man City, and De Bruyne is hauled down. He's not just tripped, he's grabbed, he's pulled to the ground, and you've got to be looking at the referee and thinking, well, why is he not in the first case given a penalty kick? Is he shy from giving one? Because that is an offence. So then it's compounded because they go to VAR. VAR in itself shows the clear offence. The defender's lost, if you like, the challenge, so he's grabbed him. No penalty kick. Totally bemusing.
Former Premier League referee Keith Hackett there, speaking in no uncertain terms on Love Sport Breakfast. Remember, Richard Lee and Patrick Christys are back from 6:30 tomorrow morning. You can catch them every weekday morning right here on Love Sport Radio. And Martin, I just want to pick up where Keith Hackett left off. For you, is VAR being misused? There have been suggestions that the refs need to rely on the monitors. How do you think it's being applied?
Yeah, well, I think tweaks are going to be needed, Johnny. It's not. I thought the Watford were very, very unlucky on Saturday with the one at Tottenham. I thought it was a difficult one for the referee, but for VAR, I thought it was an obvious and clear penalty, and that would have put them 2-0 up, which at that stage would have probably been, with the current frame of mind of the Spurs players, an unassailable lead. So it's very, very important. But I think all of us would know changes to the game were going to happen. Tweaks now, though, are needed, and I'm sure behind the scenes with the Premier League and the referees, they'll be working very closely together to work out how they can make it better.
Well, one man who certainly wasn't happy this weekend, with VAR for one thing and with his side for another, was Jurgen Klopp. Of course, United's goal could have been disallowed. Liverpool's goal through Sadio Mane was. And Jurgen Klopp said almost everything went against us. He then said it's a fact that United always set up to defend against us at Old Trafford. It's petulance. It's absolute petulance. Jurgen Klopp gets this easy ride from the media where everybody loves him because he's got those big white teeth which come out when he grins. The fact of the matter is, he is very charming. He knows how to work a room. He knows how to manipulate a journalist when he's winning. It's very easy to smile and fist pump at the crowd and be this delightful, affable character when you've won 16 on the spin. As soon as they drop so much as 2 points, he's here whining, he's making excuses, he's blaming the other team. Of course they're setting up to defend. They're a struggling team with the form side of the division coming to visit. What do you expect them to do? Throw the kitchen sink at you and get beat 6-0? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but I didn't agree with his comments on that, Johnny, because Manchester United, they certainly didn't set out and park the bus and play with 5 at the back and 4 across midfield and 1 up front and hope for the odd counter-attack. They took the game and they were on the front foot, playing with 2 wing-backs that were very high up the pitch, and their wing-backs were closing down the full-backs of Liverpool that far up. So they was leaving channels behind them where old Rojo was playing on the left, and over on the right was Lindelof playing like a right back, and sometimes Rojo playing as a left back. So it was a very, very positive tactical move by Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And you got to say, on the day, Liverpool never played on the day. They were very, very disappointing. And for some reason, Liverpool have not performed at Old Trafford for some time. They have not put in good performances. And I would imagine he would have been very irate, very disappointed and shocked with the way his team played.
Well, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the only manager Jurgen Klopp has faced more than once in the Premier League and failed to beat. So for all of this chat about Klopp being a tactical genius and Ole possibly not being good enough, he seems to have got the measure of the German.
Well, Johnny, if you've got good players, it often helps you get better results, doesn't it? Let's be perfectly honest. And the recruitment going into Liverpool has been absolutely fantastic. The sale of the centre forward to Barcelona, and then in bringing in Van Dijk and Alisson, the goalkeeper, was absolutely key in this turnover for Liverpool. One player out, and these 2 fantastic players coming in have changed Liverpool and driven them up to the top of the league. And now Ole's got to be hoping that he can get the same back in with some good young players coming through at Manchester United at the moment as well. He's got to be hoping that he's allowed and given time. And he hasn't had enough credit. He hasn't had enough credit for that tactical move to play 2 high wing backs, James and Rashford on the left and the right, with Pereira playing as a number 10 behind them, but the 2 forwards were playing kind of wide forwards. He hasn't got the credit he deserves. It's hardly been mentioned.
Well, on that front, it was a superb tactical decision from Ole. Has he shown the rest of the Premier League something of a template of how to go toe-to-toe with Liverpool and how to ping Liverpool's fullbacks back a bit?
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Whoever came up with that idea, because I haven't been playing like that in any of the other games, but what came out more than anything about tactics or anything else was their attitude, their desire, their willingness, their drive, their spirit, and all the things that you don't. They are the things that when you don't see those things, then you know that the manager is on his last legs. And their performance yesterday showed Ed Woodward and his merry band of the other directors that they are in a good place with him, and tactically that was a top move by an under pressure manager, and I thought he'd done really well for Manchester United yesterday.
Absolutely, and grumpiness from Jurgen Klopp, really getting a taste of his own medicine. Another
Absolutely.
manager finally tactically outmanoeuvring him, and he does not like it one bit.
And got outplayed. They got outplayed, outfought, outbattled, outrun, outpassed, totally all assets of the game. Manchester United came out on top.
Coming up, we're going to be finding out what Love Sport Radio have got for you after 7 o'clock. And we've also got some big Arsenal team news, so stay tuned.
I'm not a snob. I just don't want to be in the same car as my chauffeur.
Love Sport Radio, the station giving fans a voice.
You all right, mate?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah? Really? It's just, there's a massive grizzly bear sitting on you. You sure you're okay?
Well, now that you mention it.
Sometimes we say we're fine when we're not, but with 1 in 4 experiencing a mental health problem, if your mate says he's fine, he might not be. Be in your mate's corner and ask twice. Time to change.
Hi, I'm Marilyn from Oxfordshire. My current insurance company quoted £245.08 to reinsure, and a spokesman said obtain me a price of £173.49 for the same cover. This was a fantastic saving for me. And next time my car insurance comes up for renewal, I will be going through a spokesman said. No doubt about that.
With a spokesmansaid.com. Fighting for you, saving you money.
Whoa!
Look how much saturated fat is in these chocolate biscuits. It's surprising how much is in our food and drinks. For us kids, eating too much saturated fat can lead to harmful fat building up inside, which we can't see, increasing the risk of heart disease or stroke when we get older. So be food smart. Download the free Change for Life food scanner app and start making healthier choices today.
There are many things a mother can pass on to her baby. Her smile, her eye colour, and her immunity to whooping cough. Whooping cough is a very dangerous illness for young babies, and at the moment it's spreading fast. A simple vaccination during your pregnancy can help to protect your baby in their first weeks. Please speak to your GP, nurse, or healthcare professional and pass on your immunity.
This is Love Sport.
We got some big Arsenal team news. There is no Özil in the travelling squad. Lacazette has travelled with the group up to Sheffield. The last time he played was in the North London derby on the 1st of September. So that is a boost for the Gunners. And we are joined in the studio in very timely fashion by Love Sport's very own glorious Charlie Hawkins. He carries you forward from 7 with the fan shows. And it is Arsenal at 7 o'clock. What are the lads going to make of this Özil news?
Well, this is it. News breaking in. So I haven't actually had a chance to speak to him about the team news. They're more excited. Can I ask, is Tierney starting? That was the one they wanted to know.
Let's have a look.
I've put you on the spot, JB. I'll improvise in the meantime. But it's a huge game tonight. International break. Obviously, everyone's had their chance at returning this weekend. Arsenal have had to wait that little longer. And talking as we do on Love Sport, we've got all the fan shows. Speaking to the Sheffield United fan show, they fancy their chances at this one. You know, the old Arsenal won't play the Monday night lights, the weather up north. Sheffield United have made a very good start to the Premier League. They fancy their chances. They feel that Arsenal can be got tonight. And it is early on in the season, but Arsenal, I feel like this is a must-win for Arsenal tonight.
Why?
Well, I just feel like you need to make a statement when... not just top 4, when you are saying you're challenging for the title, it's these games you need to win, and it's these games that have hounded or haunted Arsenal over many years. It's winning the games that they should be winning. It's certainly not a disrespect to Sheffield United, but if you are not certainly want to challenge for the top 4, which they haven't been, let's not be honest, they've been in Europa League the last 2 seasons, so they haven't made that top 4. If they want to get that top 4 and progress even further, you need to be winning these games.
I agree. Yeah, I agree with you. It's a key game, isn't it?
It is massive.
I'm not sure it's a must-win game, but it's a key game.
I think in terms, I completely understand you there, Mark. But I mean, it must win in terms of, can you imagine? And you know, we'll be doing it tomorrow. If they don't get the 3 points here, it's the same old Arsenal. They can't win these games. Is Unai Emery working?
To lose that tag,
straight away
of 6th place Arsenal and getting onto this next. Is Tierney going to be fixed? I'm looking forward to seeing him play. And what about Bellerin?
Well, this is it. And if people we want this back 4, don't they, Arsenal? They want this back 4 of, they've got Bellerin at flying right back, they've got Tierney now. We're all waiting to see it. Holding's just come back from that long injury layoff, that terrible injury he had. So we're trying to see if they'll go with that back 4. Obviously, we're not going to see it tonight yet, but very exciting times. I believe if he's not playing tonight, Tierney, he will start in the Europa League because he's nearing full match fitness.
Exciting stuff. And talking of returns from injury, Lacazette, a big boost as well.
Huge. I reckon he's the player they've been missing. Aubameyang, player of the month. But Lacazette, for me, is just one of the most clinical finishers in the Premier League. I have to say, he doesn't need many chances. The man, he knows where the goal is. And I think he's a real goal threat. And I think he's actually in a side where if they didn't have the likes of Aubameyang scoring all those goals, Lacazette would get even more plaudits. I can't believe he doesn't get in the France national team, even in the squad. I know that's a conversation for another day, but that one is astounding for me.
And they've got a couple of young lads that I've noticed, Charlie. A lad called Martinelli, who I've seen play and I thought was quite close to being brilliant when I saw him play against Forest. And then there's another young lad that's come through the academies. His name's Saka.
Saka, yeah. He's looked a real talent.
How old is he?
I think he's 18. Johnny will probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's 18 or 19. He's another one that's just... He looks like he's 28. He looks like a veteran. You know, they've all got this poise. They look like they've been playing for years. You know, it's how Willock started the season. They look like they've been playing 4 or 5 seasons. You know, it doesn't faze them in the slightest. It's a good core of youngsters at Arsenal. But again, Mike, it comes back to what we've said. They've always had good youngsters to a certain level. It's the veterans. It's the getting over the hurdle, getting over the line. there gets to a point where fans or pundits or whoever, you can only hear about youngsters so much. You know, they always say you can't win the league with kids and so on. But Martinelli, what a buy he is. In the market, we know about inflation now. Getting a player like this and the potential we're seeing, paying only $5 million, I mean, unbelievable.
It's a cracking signing. It sounds like it'll be a cracking show as well. From 8 o'clock, it's the Brentford fan show with Besotted. What a comeback that was. 2-0 down, 70-odd minutes gone, 94th minute, bang, 3-2 up.
Yeah, unbelievable. 6 minutes to go, 2-0 down to Millwall, playing in what was virtually a Millwall kit because it's their 115th anniversary, so they were playing in a special anniversary kit.
Quite dark blue, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was literally like the Millwall kit. It was a strange one. I was watching the game and I thought, I keep thinking this is Millwall, but it's Brentford. But,
weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was weird. Maybe we'll put the 2-0 start down to that, but they did go 2-0 down. What a fight back. And Thomas Frank, the Brentford manager, after the game, he said, if we're going to win games like that, I'll take it. I prefer to win games like that. I thought, you don't want to win every game like that. 2-0 down with 6 minutes to go.
Material, wasn't it?
Yeah, not great. Great for the neutrals. I'm not sure about great for Thomas Frank or the Brentford fans either way.
What time was the third goal?
94th minute. Ollie Watkins, who did miss a penalty earlier in the game, but redemption, he got the winner 3-2.
I bet the place went mad, didn't it?
Absolutely crazy. And I always watch them games like that, and I always think, I wish I was in that. Just because fans go wild, don't they? That extra 10%, I love it.
And from 9, we've got the Man City fan show. Great performance, understated, efficient, clean sheet, 2 goals, 3 points.
Yeah, there's not enough words to describe this performance. Ultimate professionalism. De Bruyne, Sterling, David Silva. Where do you begin to talk about him? Where do you finish talking about him? I think the team is just absolutely frightening. I'm going to go out and say it now. They will win the Premier League this year, 100%.
Whoa, 100%. 6 points behind. Do you think they can do it?
They'll win it by 8 points minimum.
Sorry. Wow.
I'm saying it now in October. I would have said this last week.
A 14-point swing from
100% Liverpool will crumble again. City will win the league, 3-peat champions, guaranteed.
Guy, if we could just clip that, we'll be playing that again in August sort of time.
Do you think he's mad?
I don't think he's mad to say they can get back into it. I think saying that there is going to be a 14-point swing.
Let's not remember the gap that they had last year, and we're only in October. City have been there, done it. Liverpool can crumble. They have to play each other twice still.
Yeah, but how many points... Are Liverpool even going to drop 14 points this year? I'm not convinced that they will.
Johnny, after watching them play Crystal Palace at the weekend, I think they'll win the Premier League.
Okay, well, I'm going Liverpool. And I'll take you both on.
But I'm not sure it'll be by, what Charlie says, 14 points.
Yeah, it'll be by 53 points.
The way they played and the style, without centre-backs and players missing, unbelievable.
Well, Charlie, it was another cracking late winner for Aston Villa. 3 points against Brighton, so I'm sure that'll be a buoyant show. And then from 10:30, it's Derby County. What's the feeling there?
The feeling's not great, is it? And they're all trying to deflect it over, well, we've got Wayne Rooney coming in January. They don't want to talk about results, but they want to talk about Wayne joining.
Banked by Charlton. Not just beaten, demolished.
And once again, the goal scorer, Conor Gallagher, who we spoke about at length, I'm telling you, Charlton are really flying.
Is he that good, is he?
He's that good.
Is he going to play for Chelsea next year?
Wouldn't surprise me, Johnny, honestly. It's a small sample size, but from what I've seen so far, yes.
Charlie, it sounds like a sensational few shows. I'll be tuning in on my way home, as I always do. Thank you for joining us. Martin, it always flies by with you.
Do you know what I'm impressed about with Charlie?
Everything. The dress sense, the good looks.
The Farah top that he's got on.
Yeah, he doesn't mess around, does he?
He's got Farah. I thought Farah's were trousers, like with that little yellow button on your back bum pocket. But Charlie has got a Farah top on.
Well, I tell you what, we got it all for you here at Love Sport Radio. Chat, conversation and clobber. Martin, a pleasure to spend 4 hours in your company. Guy, lovely to have you back from Budapest. Stay with us for the Arsenal Fan Show, and the Posh Boys are back from 3 o'clock tomorrow.
Love Sport.